is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
All right, here we go again, everybody. Welcome. This is episode number 250 of the flagship show, Sports Cards Live. It's Saturday night, December the 7th, 2024. My name is Jeremy Lee. I would like to welcome everybody. A quick reminder, tomorrow night on the channel, the Fanatics Collect Hockey Auction Ending Watch Party with Josh Madigan of the Hockey Cards Gong Show will be going live here on the channel. And also, the Fund Your Card Show will be back on Wednesday here live on the channel. I'd like to shout out my great sponsors. First of all, Filth Bomb Breaks offers live case and box breaks, and they do so with responsibility and integrity. If you enjoy box breaks and you are looking for a company to break with, check out Filth Bomb streaming on Fanatics live on 4 channels, 7 days a week. And if you're looking to fund a grail for your collection, you want to add a grail, make sure you check out Fund Your Cards. They are the hobby's leading consolidator. They will help you finance the purchase of your card with your own cards. Visit fundyourcards.com. And again, check out the Fund Your Card Show here on Sports Cards Live again on Wednesday. And finally, Mint Inc. is a leading hobby brand in Canada. And Johnny Amendola, the president founder, will be joining us here on the show tonight. And we will be doing the $50 Mint Inc. giveaway tonight. You need to be here in the chat to check it out. Check out mintink.ca, guys. Also, just check out hobbynewsdaily.com for your daily dose of hobby headlines and a podcast and news, etc. And the guy who runs Hobby News Daily also runs collectibles on Sports Illustrated. Pretty cool there. Leighton Sheldon's going to join us from Just Collect a little bit, really quite shortly. Guys, please remember this show, this podcast is available wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, anywhere else. Please leave a rating, review. Greatly appreciate it. And as always, thank you to all of our loyal viewers and listeners. If you have not yet subscribed to this show on YouTube, this channel, or the podcast, please take a moment and do so. And as always, your comments, your questions will be in play tonight. Let's bring out the man from Santa Cruz, Mr. Joe Poirot. Getting that collar ready to go. Joe, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, thanks, Jeremy. And congratulations on the big 250. That's not light work. That represents a lot of time and a lot of toil. So congratulations to you for this birthday.
Hey, it snuck up on me. You know, we celebrated the 3-year anniversary of the show 2 Aprils ago. And, you know, this is episode 250 of Sports Cards Live, but I'm coming up on 700 shows between everything that we've done here on the channel. It's pretty crazy, but thank you for that. Excited, guys. We got a great show tonight. We got all sorts of people going to be dropping through the channel, the show, and we got some topics. It's going to be great. Already have guests lining up for next week as well here on the show, guys. So Saturday night, Sports Cards Live. This is where I want to be. I hope it's where you want to be. Let's say hello to all of you. Tons of you here already. Jacob Dahl. What's going on, Jacob? David Marone. I got to say, I'm big, as you guys know, Joe, you know, I'm all into like low grade, high eye appeal vintage. And I got an amazing autogram from Dave Marone at the Expo a few years ago. Dave, what's going on? Good to see you. Aaron Pantoya, welcome to the show. Lantern Cards is here. Daniel A is here. Thank you. Whoa, PGs, what's going on? Here we whiskey go-go. Todd McDonald is here. Laura, always good to see you. D, we're just going with D. D is here. Thank you very much. Daniel, what's going on? Jeff McMahon is here as always. The professor, good evening to you. C. Eddie B, thank you. What's going on? Penguins Collector, thank you. Hope you guys are well. Robert Scott, good evening. David Archbell, frequent viewer, first time here live, and it's been a pleasure to chat with you, Dave. Welcome to the channel. Live Yankees fan, good evening. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Mookie. Breakers HQ, what's happening? Mike Nunya, Studio Sports. The crew's here, Joe. The crew is here. You got any pickups this week? What's going on?
It's funny that you say the crew's here because, yeah, after hanging out here for so many Saturday nights, you do feel like it's a community. You do feel like, you know, some new names, some old names, some names in between. So it's fun. And hello to all the hobby friends and family out there all over the world. I got one pickup that I kind of wanted to show in the theme of what we might qualify as eye appeal. You'll recall last week I had the Napoleon Lajoie with the typewriter insertion of second base on the card, which of course lowered the grade, but also kind of made it a little more unique and specific. So I'm going to undo my tropical backdrop to show you this next one. This is obviously Walter Johnson, the T206, and in the famous hands at chest as opposed to the portrait. I love both I probably like the portrait more, but the hands at chest, I mean, there's just some really cool kind of shadow work and I don't know, some sort of nuances from card to card in terms of the coloring and the blue background. But if you can see right up here, there's a pinhole, which more or less accounts for the technical grade of 1, but otherwise it's really well centered. There's no major creases. It's got a little dirtiness to it as well, but overall it's something that I kind of saw. I'm selling a fair amount of cards these days, so sometimes I have to placate myself with all the ones I'm letting go by picking up something that I like, and the Walter Johnson qualifies as that. So that's my pickup.
So that's the hand at chest, but he also has the yellow portrait, which is a absolutely stunning card. I would love to have one of those.
And I think it's on the is it the REA one that we might take a peek at later? I saw it on there, I think.
It might. Did you see it? Because I was showing you my yes. So right here, I'm going to give you guys I'll give you guys a glimpse into my watch list on REA, which, by the way, REA ends tomorrow. But here you go. I had this PSA 3.5 T206 Johnson on my watch list. It's got 35 bids. It's at $3,400 right now. As you can see, I'm not the high bidder on anything, but yeah, this is just such a beautiful card.
I love it.
Look at that. This is a 3.5, Joe, and I don't know. I may make a play. I may throw a bid at it. We'll have to see. I probably not, but maybe. But gosh, it is just.
Do you not own that? Do you not already own one of those?
No, I've never owned any T206 card ever.
I think I have 3, and they're all beaters, unfortunately, because I get in what I can. But you hold out for something usually of significance that is worthy of your fine collection. And this looks worthy of your fine collection. I don't know if you can, do the financials on it, but it's a beautiful card.
Well, it's certainly worthy of my collection, no doubt about it. This is a 3.5 that looks a lot nicer than that, and I'd way rather have a 3.5 that looks like this than a 6 with sharp corners, because this is going to cost you 20% of the price probably, and it's gorgeous. So yeah, but I don't know. That's one on my watch list. My favorite, though, I'm watching the Ty Cobb. I'm not buying this card, but I want to watch it. It's a 22 grand, but this is my dream right here, the 33 Gaudy Lou Gehrig. I'm not going to be buying this one. It's a PSA 5. It's just too expensive for me right now, but it's beautiful. Just a gorgeous. Oh, it's just stunning. Oh my gosh. I got to stop looking at it. And then I might make a play at this Warren Spawn. I'm big into these. I'm really enjoying these 51 Bowmans right now. I've got 3 so far. And this, guys, please let me have this. Do not bid on this. I'm going to make a bid on this one tomorrow at some point. Well, we'll see. What is it? It's a PSA 8. It's almost too high of a grade. I feel like I could find a 4 that looks almost this good. But it's only at $600 right now. So maybe. And then a few others. I'm watching the Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse, the PSA 6, 1931 Wills card. Awesome card. And then 2 Supermans. I mean, this is the Superman rookie card, number 1 from the Superman set, 1940. And there's a 1.5 and a 4. I'm kicking myself for not pulling the trigger on one of these at the Atlantic City National in 2022, or was it 21 or 22, whichever year it was. Gosh. You know how we do that. We kick ourselves. But yeah, there's some beautiful cards. And yeah, I'm glad you showed that Johnson, because it reminded me of all of these. Yeah, man, some great stuff.
Well, you have, and I say this in a positive way, but you have a striking likeness to Warren Spahn on the 48 leaf version of Spawn with the portrait picture there. I think we've talked about that before. Maybe we haven't. I don't know. Am I correct in acknowledging that if we were to put the Spawn and you up next to each other, there might be a little bit of a hey, are you related?
I mean, honestly, I don't see it, but Chris Hoge from Card Ladder, Chris McGill from Card Ladder, he first said that. He was the first person that ever said that to me, being this card right here. I don't know. Do we look alike? Yeah. I don't know if I see it, but this is the card that you're talking about. Yeah. I've heard that before, but you know what it is? I love the 51 Bowmans. Leighton just got here. I want to get his opinion on that card, but first, I want to say hello to everybody else. Leighton, we're bringing you on in 1 second here. I want to just say hello here too. Breakers HQ is here. Mid-Atlantic, Big Train, Walter Johnson, Mookie says, I love that Joe has to leave the hollow deck to show his fire. Love that. Aaron, what's going on? You have a cigarette pack from 1912, Strange Letters. Leighton might be able to help you. We'll help you out, Aaron, one way or another. Vintage. What's going on, Vintage Card Collector? Card history tonight. 82. Hulk Hogan was a PSA 9 at 132,000 on Heritage with time to go. Will be the highest price ever for a wrestling card. Yeah, Heritage is ending tonight. Jake Dahl, good. Todd McDonald loves Joe's background. Mark Santucci, welcome to the show. Colin Murray, good to see you, buddy. Josh from 90s Auctions, who might be joining us next week. We'll see. We will see. He says the 19th century stuff is outstanding. Great cabinet cards. OJ's. Amazing. Mark Santucci, a player grade is appropriate for any cards. Yes. Good. All right. Preston Cantor, welcome to the show. Disneyland 70th anniversary. Just saying, says Laura. Chris from CRT Sports Cards is here. He knows his T206s, especially the polar bears. The guy has the polar bear tattoos on his sleeves. JMF, good evening. Welcome to the show. Let's bring on Leighton, Joe. Leighton, you good to go? He's good to go. What's up, buddy? How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing well. Doing well.
Good to see you, Leighton.
Good to see you as well, Joe.
Did you see the cards on REA that I was showing a few minutes ago?
No, the only thing I saw was the Warren Spawn.
Okay. What do you think? Do I look like Warren? Do I look like Spawn?
I want to take a better look at it off camera,
Okay. Yeah, I won't be offended if you say no. I don't see it myself. Okay, here, Leighton. I want to, because speaking of Warren Spawn, there is, this is REA. These are some cards I'm watching. This is the Warren Spawn I was just talking about. Leighton, 51 Bowmans. I love them. This card, it's a PSA 8, just beautiful. Is this listen, you deal in these cards, 24/7. What do you think of the 51 Bowman Warren Spawn? Is it a card that people like? Am I alone here? Am I going to get a good deal on this? It's currently sitting at $600 is the current bid. Do you think I can get this for under $1,000?
So I can't see it so well, Jeremy, and pardon me for being critical here, but it looks a little bit off center left to right. Am I not seeing that correctly?
Oh, no, it is off the center. It's still within PSA 8 standards, but yeah, it is off center.
Okay, so I do like the card. Listen, if you want me to give my just, off the cuff, honest assessment here, Jeremy, for me, as a conscious collector, yes, I like the card. I wouldn't buy that in an off-centered 8. I just wouldn't do it. I would buy a nice centered 5 to 7. I save some money off the top, and then I would redeploy the difference somewhere else. That doesn't mean you're wrong for buying it if it's a decent deal. But to me, if I bought that, there's no doubt. All right, if whatever I thought it was worth, if I could make 15% and I could buy it, something like that, I would just sell that. That wouldn't be something I would keep for my PC. But that's just, that's my own personal taste.
No, that's good advice. And listen, it's too high of a grade for me. I don't need an 8. I feel like I'll be able to find a 4 that is nicer than this 8. This is also a very old PSA slab, so you don't know what it would grade for today. I just love the image. I love the leg up like that. He's about to throw the ball. I absolutely love this image. That's really what it comes down to for me. But I think you're right. Okay, I'm not going to make a play. I'll wait to find a nicer, a centered PSA 4 with slightly rounded corners. That's up my alley. Bobby Burrell says it's got a bit of a diamond cut, which I kind of, here, I'll bring it back up. I kind of see that. Like you can see the top border gets a little wider as you go to the right, the bottom as you go to the left. But this, yeah, it's maybe some slight tilt, maybe some slight diamond cut as well. David, the Rated Rabbi, says, get one that's centered. Yeah, fair. I'm hearing you guys. And Dan's Vintage says the problem with 51 Bowman is that it's the exact image from the 50 Bowman, just more rectangle. And I actually don't look at that as a problem. I look at that, first of all, the 1950 Bowmans don't have the name on the front. They don't have the black bar. So I actually prefer, you get more card in 51. They're bigger. You get the name on the front. But I think what Dan is saying is that it's a retread image. I get that, but I think all that will do is save me money on a beautiful card. So I'm okay with it, Dan. I think you probably hear what I'm saying. I like the name on the front as well. Dan says there are better vintage cards like 53 Bowman. Yeah, but better says who? Not says. I actually prefer this card. I do love the 53 Bowman Warren Spahn as well. He's just kind of sitting there like this on the card. You know how that card looks. It's gorgeous. But I actually prefer. I just love these 51 Bowman. So better is subjective, I would say. As Dan says, better is subjective. I don't agree it's better, but I might get one of those eventually too. And Mookie says, I think it's actually the same image as the 49 Bowman as well. Interesting. That I haven't noticed. I knew it was the same as the 50, but anyway, those are some of the things that we tend to run into as we collect and explore more and more cards. Hey, Leighton, anything else kind of stick out to you in terms of like, let me ask you this, Leighton, the 51 Bowman and the 50 Bowman, are all the images the same where the players appear in both sets?
That's a great question. I never really took a look, as far as that's concerned. But I kind of like your analysis. In other words, if you're not buying from either year for a rookie, and you're just buying because, for example, like you want the Roy Campanella card, and I know the 1950 Bowman Campy. I really like that card. But I absolutely see your point. Like, I kind of like the 51. You have the name on the front. You don't, not that you have to guess, but listen, kind of like what Dan was saying. I love the 53 Bowman color, Warren Spahn. I think what's fun is as long as you can have a really great conversation and no one's feelings are hurt and, no one kind of raises their voice like, I'm right. I think it can open up your eyes in some cases. In other cases, it's like, you know what? No, I actually have strong enough conviction about this particular purchase or this particular course of action. Some people think it's crazy. Hey, I'm going to start a set. I don't have the funds. I'd rather buy commons. At least I can start playing and participating. I think that's nuts. If I was building a set, I start with the most expensive, the best cards first. That way, if you decide to give up on it, you're not going to get 60 cents on the dollar. You might even make some money, but it's neither here nor there. It's just no right way. It's a matter of what's best for you.
Yeah, I agree. Joe, what do you think of all this? I mean, first of all, the 50 versus the 50. Well, I'll let you go. What do you think of all this?
I think the most recent experience I have comparing the 50 and the 51 is with relation to Larry Doby, because I had a pretty high grade 50 Doby, and I noticed there was a pretty big discrepancy in prices. And I'm not sure if that's just because it was a high number in 1950 or if it's just the earlier issue and there's fewer of them. But and it wasn't the exact same grade, so I may have been miscalibrating. But I don't know. I kind of like the 50. I kind of like the more compact card. I like this kind of uniformity of the, it's closer to being a square as opposed to a rectangle, I guess. And I don't know why I preferred that. So it was hard. I ended up getting rid of my 50 Bowman. I think it was like a PSA 7, which is no small amount of cash in my pocket, but it was a little tough to get rid of. I have like a 2 or a 1.5 to kind of cover my bases, so to speak.
Yeah. They're all nice. They're all cool. They're all great. Dan says, Jeremy, will you sign my 49 Leaf Spawn at the National? Dan, absolutely I will not. I would never do that. I would never deface a vintage Spawn card. No, but hey, thanks for asking, Dan. And I can't imagine you're serious about that. Mark says the 50 Bowmans are the player deck cards, blue and red, and a short set 51 Bowman has the Mantle Rookie. I know about the Mantle Rookie. I didn't know about the player deck. What does that mean, Leighton? The player deck cards, red and blue.
I would imagine he's talking about the Topps red and blue backs from 51. I don't know exactly what he means on 50 Bowman, but maybe he means something different that I'm not aware of.
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure either. Laura says 50 was the original, and Jeff's card journey says I have many 1950 Bowman in baseball and football. Love that. Yeah. Well, isn't my Otto Graham a 1950 Bowman? The one that I got earlier from Dave Marone, mentioned earlier, who's in the audience right now. Anyway, man, you know, you got Heritage ending tonight. They sold the Gretzky 79 O-Pee-Chee case just here on Thursday night, I believe. Didn't quite do what it did the first time. And, you know, it's funny. You hear a lot. I've seen some headlines, if you will, or, you know, some thumbnails saying, what does it mean that it went for 3.72 million, 6 months ago, and now it sells for 2.52 million? What does that mean for the hobby? Or what does it mean for that product? And I think all it means was that some guy who was, having a bit too many beverages that night wasn't in the running this time. And he stepped aside, and it sold for $2.52 million now for, I think, 768 packs, within 16 boxes. And I just think that I don't think it means much. Leighton, did you review that? Have you thought about it at all? What do you think about the fact that, again, Heritage gave it a go the first time. The guy who bought it didn't pay for it. I don't know if he was drunk or just an idiot when he was bidding on it, and he doesn't end up paying for it like a chump. And then they relist it, and it goes for $1.2 million exactly less. That's buyer's premium included. But what were your thoughts on that, Leighton?
Well, first, just to address these couple points you were making about the bidder, there really is just a myriad of things that could have happened. He could have bought it thinking he was going to resell it. He could have bought it thinking he was going to use it for marketing purposes for a new company or a new product. It never happened. It never launched. I mean, there's just so many different things that could have really happened. But that aside, after looking at it selling for about $3,250 per pack, I actually think it's about kind of like what it's worth, if that makes sense. In other words, at about $150,000-ish per box. I clearly think there's a premium versus, what a non-case fresh box would sell for. But I kind of think a regular box would sell for about $100,000. So, if this box is selling for a 50% premium, I don't think that sounds crazy to me. And I actually think it's much more in line with not only what it's worth, but I could see someone sitting on this case for 6 months to 5 years and actually be able to resell it at a profit, maybe not the whole case at once. Maybe he's piecing it out by a box, and it's known from the case that, was originally found in Canada, with all the provenance and such. But nonetheless, I think it was much more in line with what it's actually worth today.
Yeah, I think you're right about the value, like $157,000 for the box. It's 48 packs per box, $3,281 per pack. That does seem much more in line to me than it did the first time. And I don't know, I don't know why the guy bought it the first time, but I heard a few rumors about why he did. Laura clarifies it wasn't beer. He was under the influence of Red Bull. That's what he said. He was just getting a little bit too excited along the way. And but Bobby says, the 79 case went cheap as per box price at $157. I don't disagree with that. I don't know about cheap, but like fair, mate. Bobby, do you think it was cheap or do you think it was fair? There's a big difference there. I think it's more fair. But then you were saying, Leighton, like, what is the new owner? I don't think we know who it is yet. What are they going to do with this cardboard box filled with more cardboard? Are they going to open it and sell the boxes one at a time? They're going to open it and open the packs, get the packs graded, sell them off, find ones with Gretzky on the front or back. Maybe you can see through the wax paper. Like, what do you think the best move, Leighton? This is a good question. What do you think the best, and I mean, there's different ways, financial, entertainment, content, promotion, marketing, but what do you think the best thing to do with that case would be from here forward?
Put it in your safe, bring it out once a year to the National, make a deal with Fanatics or Golden or Steve Hart, put it on display, It's not for sale. If someone's interested, doesn't matter if they see a not for sale sign, they'll inquire, and I would continue to put it back in the safe. And if it didn't sell, I would, look into the tax advantages that I could make sure that I, work with my accountant on, and probably pass it down to the next generation. Maybe take a loan off of it because of its value. Who knows? There's a lot of different things you could do.
Yeah. Well, look at this. So here is Card Ladder, and my search is 1979. I don't know. Here's a little trick for anybody looking for O-Pee-Chee, whether you're searching, eBay completeds or Card Ladder or whatever. I just put in Chee, Chee. I don't know if you can see it there. Box and Gretzky. And look at this. So these all went for 157,000, but the last three boxes did 150, 186, and 198, all BBCE certified, as the boxes inside that case are, right? They opened it up, certified them, and put them back into the case. So 144,000 here in May of 2020. So they sold for less. Like you got a volume discount here if you bought all 16 boxes on Heritage back on Thursday night. So I don't know, that's pretty interesting right there, right? Like you maybe got, now compared to the most recent one that sold on March 20th. So these are 2023, Jan 11 and March 29, 2023, 186 and 198. March of this year came down a bit and did 150. And now 16 of them did 157 all in one fell swoop. So yeah. Joe, any thoughts before I go to some comments?
Oh, I'm not a good math person. Are we saying there's 24 boxes in the case?
16 boxes in the case.
Gotcha.
48 packs per box for 768 packs.
And 2.5 Gretzky's?
27.2 or something like that Gretzky's.
Okay.
Yeah, you're going to get about a fifth of a Gretzky in there.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, Bobby says the case got tainted with the previous sale. And to me, that would be my biggest gripe if I was the consigner on the sale. Nothing against Heritage. I mean, the guy could afford, I think the guy could afford, he was some big realtor in Toronto. Maybe he could afford it, just decided not to pay for it. But that would be, I would definitely be upset by that as well. Breakers HQ says Breakers drove that price up. Damn, Breaker, says Breakers HQ. Bobby says best guaranteed boxes for 1979 there ever was. So Bobby loves that particular case, and I don't blame him. Dog Food Soup wonders, can they CT scan them all looking for Gretzky? Well, they're in there, so there's really no point in CT scanning those. Unless you're doing it pack by pack, in which case we have issues. But sealed boxes, sealed case, you kind of know what's in there. So no real reason to do that. Vintage Cards says do a live break with Wayne himself. That might be doable with that particular case. Someone spends $2.5 million. Wayne might say, huh? All right. Where do you want me? Maybe not. Maybe not. Breaker says you can borrow against the value of the case. There you go. Use it as collateral. Michael Ham's in the chat. Mike, Mr. Ham, we'll see you in a little bit here on the show. And Colin Murray says, sell it one box at a time. Maybe grade a couple boxes. Heritage wanted to get paid at once. Owner should have sold it on a box-by-box basis. What do you think of that, Leighton? Any thoughts on that comment?
I disagree. I think that, there was something to be said for selling it all at once. To be clear, the first time they did sell for $3-point-something million. And if the person, actually paid for it, it would have looked fantastic. So, at the end of the day, if I'm not mistaken from the story with Heritage, and Jason did a good job posting about it on IG, over the time period, it was owned since basically, the cards were issued in 1979. So the folks are going to get a fantastic return on their investment, and it just means it's worth maybe a little bit less at the moment. But there's a number of reasons why it's a wonderful price that the person bought it at. But I don't think we're going to see it broken up anytime soon. That's just my gut.
My one comment to both Colin and you is that, how many people can afford to buy 16 boxes at a time versus how many can afford one at a time? And even one at a time at 150, 180, 200 grand is a ton of money. But does the buyer's pool open up a lot wider on the box by box basis? I don't know. Any thoughts there, Leighton?
Well, it certainly does. But at the same time, I saw the stat the other day for New York City. I don't want to misquote it, but it was like, I don't know, 1 in 16 people are a millionaire. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seemed to be like, wow, this is really high. So I just think that there's enough people. Listen, Heritage is selling $200,000-$300,000 lots across not just sports, but they have, a myriad of different disciplines that they sell them.
Well, didn't Dorothy's slippers just sell like yesterday for
32 million?
$32 million. That's basically 50 million in my currency here in Canada. I mean, what? Like, that's a lot of dough.
Hey, so I'll ask the question then, man. So should they have not sold it as a pair? Instead of getting 16 million a shoe, they would have got 20 million. Thanks for laughing. Obviously.
Got it. Gotta
It's
keep
not a serious
together.
question. I have no idea.
That's good. Breakers HQ here says, is that 27 Gretzky's Canadian or 27 US? Well, hey, these are O-Pee-Chee, so we'll go Canadian on them. Dan will take the 20% of a Gretzky card. Laura says the intent of the buyer of the Pandora's box, put it back in the attic for another 6 months. And in the attic, yeah. WoPG says premium is knowing the boxes have not been tampered with or resealed. Yeah. I mean, but they didn't really sell for a premium, I don't think. Like, also they sold for 157. That's not much of a premium, even over the last single box sale. Hobby Champ says, I feel like the seller could sue the non-payer for the difference in price. I don't know. I don't know that they're going to get very far with that. But hey, we'll see. Dog Food asked the question, will we see a lawsuit? Maybe. We'll follow up with Paul Lesko, see what he says. Jake from 90s B-ball cards now. So what's up, Jake? Good to see you, buddy. Bobby says, no other 79 box can compare to these. Hard to beat, not even close. So they deserve a premium. And I don't know that they got enough of one, but I think last time they got too much. This time, maybe not up, maybe just right. Hobby Champ says, like, the difference between the last price and the underbidder on the original sale. And Josh at 90s Auction says the auction company it's in the terms and conditions. The auction company can go after the consignor for the difference. We'll see if they do. Almost feel like we would have heard something about that by now, but not sure. Tough to say. What else? What's on your mind, Leighton? Anything on your mind vintage wise? You see any good collections this week?
We did. We got in a nice small group of cards from Canada, including some Worldwide Gum, 2 Babe Ruth cards, and a Lou Gehrig. I was intrigued by the collection, to say the least, because those cards are just not that easy to find. And, the story behind the cards themselves are really cool. They belong to the gentleman's father. And this gentleman actually lives in a remote town in British Columbia. And he told me that there is no traffic light that is any closer than 300 miles to his home. And so, it was kind of wild to think that yet again, there's just, more vintage cards out there, but, small amount, but yet very powerful in terms of the names. We're really excited about it. And if you follow me on IG, you saw the post, and if you don't, check it out. It's Leighton_Sheldon. And I actually took the little background story the gentleman provided, and I just took it verbatim and I put it up on the story.
Very cool. Well, yeah, I did see that post, and at first you think they're 33 Goudies, then you realize that there are 34 Worldwide Gums, the Canadian equivalent, and just as nice, of course. So here's another sort of little story. I received a DM on Instagram midweek here from Jason Newman. I forget his handle on IG right now. I'll try and find it. But he asked me he said, I'm doing some research. And here's my question. If you could trade away your whole collection for your ultimate grail, would you? And my response was basically like, hell no. And I'd love to be able to find, I found it. Here we go. He says, Jeremy, real quick, writing an article on this, and I'm gathering the opinions of many well-known collectors. If you could trade every card in your collection for your grail of all grails, would you? I write back, what up, Jason? No, that's preposterous. I'm actually a collector. I think it's fair to say that collectors own more than one unit of the things that they collect. And then I said, have you received any yeses out there? I know one guy who would say yes, buddy of mine who's looking for the PMG green Michael Jordan. He's happy to say he will trade away his whole collection for him. That's a unique case, but he writes back, he said, I couldn't agree more. That said, yeah, most people do agree with him, but he did hear from a few people who said yes, they would. I think he said like 3 or something. And I'll just share, here's the collectibles on SI website, and here's the article, the ultimate sports card dilemma, trade your whole collection for your grail. I don't see it as a dilemma. I mean, we spend our lifetimes building our collections to only trade them all for one card. You're not even a collector if you only own one card. I say that, kind of in my own opinion, but let's ask you guys. I got to ask you guys. Joe, let's start with you. Would you trade? Now, this is interesting because you have to also consider that if your whole collection's worth $10,000 and your ultimate grail's worth $25 million, it's probably an easy yes. But I think that you have to almost think to yourself, is your ultimate grail worth what your whole collection is worth? So I'm going to put qualifiers on this. My ultimate grail is not the Honus Wagner or the mantle that you see in front of us here, because I don't think I'll ever own those in any Wagner or a high grade mantle. Maybe one day I'll get a nice PSA 1 Mickey mantle, 52 tops with a pinhole in it for under 6 figures. Okay. But that to me would be the grail version of that card. And would I trade that for my whole collection? Like, absolutely not. I wouldn't. So with that kind of out of the way, Joe, would you?
Well, I'm going to take the spirit of the question as, which one would which asset or assets or, holdings would I prefer to own? And I would prefer to own the collection that I've curated over many years and decades. I could see, if I think it was David last week looking at the 2 different versions of cards that, the Brett that was a 9 and the Brett that was a 6, who, always preferred the 9, and partially because of the value. But yeah, I don't think I'm understanding or taking the bait on that in that way, or that question. I think I would just want to have the cards that I've put together, and my grail would probably be, at this point, like you said, I mean, sure, if we were just going for crass commerce, you'd go for a Wagner, or maybe, go for some specifically high-end card. But mine, and it is also a high-end card, but it would probably be the Leaf Satchel Paige, which is a card I've coveted for many years in any grade. But I don't have that. I have a reprint of that, so that tides me over for now.
What about you, Leighton? Would you make that trade?
I think that there's probably 5 cards or so, maybe a little bit more, that mean a lot to me as far as sentimental reasons. And then if you had to say to me, and this is what's really interesting, but if you had to put a gun to my head and you said to me, Ken Kendrick wants to get together and he's willing to give me his PSA 8 Wagner, and I understand, of course, there's the financial aspect of like it being worth it. But man, I'll tell you, I would do the deal. I would be like Kramer from Seinfeld. I'd go on a book tour. I would be able to fit the card in my pocket. Maybe I'd have a guard with me for the year, and I'd figure out a way to capitalize and just owning it for a bit. Eventually I'd sell it, but I'd start again. I would just start again, and hoping that as my son gets older, he'd like to be involved in that journey. And I think that sounds really fun. And so I take a little bit of a different approach just to the question. That being said, I think I would miss a lot of the cards, but I think I would enjoy the journey again. And man, if my son wanted to be involved, I just think that'd be priceless. So I don't know. That's my take.
And I think it's okay to answer it any way you want. Obviously it is, however you want. I think about, being surrounded by my cards and enjoying them, and so many of them, that to only have one, I mean, I would get bored after one evening of looking at one card. Like I've always, got a stack of cards here. Like I'm falling asleep. Like, my gosh. Yeah, couldn't do it myself. Let's see what the chat says. We got comments from the chat. So Bobby says, I will trade my whole collection for the Gretzky case. I mean, Bobby's that's saying, I mean, that's a money play probably, because Bobby's worked his whole life on his collection. What's up, Dave? Good to see you. Mark says my response same as Jeremy's, trading all cards for a grail. He would not. Chad Shipper says, happy Saturday night. Good to see you, Chad. Aaron says, no way. Dog food soup, monetarily. Yeah, but would you, that's the obvious answer. That's the easy answer, but that's when you actually have to say to yourself, you have to kind of pull the reins back and say, okay, you know, if my whole collection's worth $100,000, but I trade them for one card worth $100,000, you don't have to say that, but that's kind of the question that I'd like to know from there personally. Well, he goes on to say, although I should say as a current non-collector, I have no grail. Anything I chase as a grail will be based solely on value. Well, that makes sense. By the way, he says he's a non-collector, but he's an old collector who I've known for a long time who's going to be getting back into the hobby. Bobby Burrell says a collector is not defined by one or more thousand cards. So yes, the build would be fun again and cheaper. Jake says, no way, wouldn't trade my PC for my number one grail. Even if the money made more sense, you can't replace the memories. Attaboy, Jake. Laura says, in my humble opinion, there's too much history in one's collection to sacrifice it all for one. Agreed. Turpin Forcer, my ultimate grail is the 80. Topps Ricky Henderson PSA 10. I have a 9, but always dreamed of owning a 10. Really? You got to have a 10? Why? For the label, or is your 9 not in good enough condition? Because you can find 9s that are as nice as 10s, Terp, and save a ton of money. I just put that out there. All right. Johnny Amendola from Mint Inc. has joined us in the back. Johnny, settle down. 1 minute and you're on. 1 minute, we're going to bring you on. Dan says there isn't a card in the hobby that could... there is not a card in the hobby that could replace my life experience earned in building my collection. That could be my answer, verbatim. Me and Dan we think the exact same way that way. Aaron says, I would never exchange my collection for a card because the investment you have been making for years would be lost, and the investment in time and memories. Thorsten, what's going on? Good to see you, buddy. Josh says, I'm with Leighton. Great perspective. It's fun to climb the mountain, look around, and start again. I'll just build around the mountain, you know? Like, I don't know, maybe a moat. I don't know, maybe a village. Like, I'll just add to it. The collection is the grail, says Yelia Williams. I agree. Ham says, I don't have a grail. I'm weird. That's fair. Dave Kaplan, yes, but would your wife feel about a one card? How would your wife feel about a one card collection? She wouldn't care. Baker says, can I trade my ex-wife to give a buddy his grail? Josh, my question is whether the cards you are selling are replaceable. That's an important part. Is it weird that I don't want my own grail, but forever enjoyed the chase for it? You don't want your own grail to own my... I don't know. I need to learn more about that. What if your grail was a bigger collection? There you go. Mark Santucci's is the 84 Mattingly. And Mid-Atlantic says, my most coveted cards are not valuable. They are the cards I got autographed at the ballpark as a kid. Great perspectives, guys. We're going to bring on Johnny Amendola from Mint Inc. right now. But first, Junk Wax says, looking for that Wendell Clark PSA 10. Johnny, here we go. You good?
Good, man. I'm good. You good?
He's good. What's up? How are you? Look at that background. Are you sitting outside in front of the store?
Yeah, exactly. Sitting outside in front of the store. I had to come home, and I'm in a room, and I was like, no. So I had to figure it out quick. But here we go. So sorry for my head being as choppy. I'm looking at how perfect Joe's background it is, and I just spent 7 minutes trying to get it that good. Jeremy's texting me, are you coming? I'm like, Joe's head's too clean.
You're not feeling. So first of all, I don't know if you know Joe and Leighton, but I would like to introduce you. And of course, we got the whole chat with us. We got over 120 people with us at the moment between platforms. And if you're watching on Instagram, feel free to come over to YouTube for the better viewing experience. But pleased to make the introduction. Leighton, have you and Johnny met before?
I think possibly in the past.
Yeah, we
Expo.
were on here once and probably at Expo, but I don't think I've ever met Joe before. So, Joe, a pleasure.
Pleasure.
I got to work on getting the rest of my head as good as your head. See, there it is.
So I talk about we do the $50 Mint Inc giveaway here on Saturday nights, and
yes,
Joe will attest for me. The last 2 Saturdays, at the end of the show, Joe and I are still in here. The show's over. You know, we're not live anymore. Me and Joe are kind of sitting here, and then I go like, oh my God, forgot to do it again. So 2 weeks in a row, Johnny, we haven't done it. So we're doing it tonight for sure. But here's the question, Johnny. Do you want to do it once? Do you want to do it twice? We got to catch up.
I just got put on the spot there.
I know. Well,
I guess if I'm contractually obligated to do it every time. It means
and I messed up.
I guess we have to do it twice now.
We can do it a couple times.
And we're still shipping, even though Canada Post is on strike, so it's all good. You can still get some stuff in time for the holidays.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. So let's do one. Let's do one right now. Leighton, stick around for a bit. We don't have our next visitor coming by for maybe another 5 or 10 minutes from now. So Leighton, stick around. Let's just do this.
Yeah, I have about 5 minutes before I have to put my son to bed. So
okay, perfect. So here's what we're gonna do, guys. We're gonna do a giveaway. We're going to do a Mint Ink giveaway right now. I'm going to put something on the screen, and you guys have to type into the chat exactly what I put on the screen with the hashtag and everything. It's very easy to do. Before we do that, I want to catch up on comments. Thorson said the word collection is plural, plus I'm a team collector. First and always, go Minnesota Wild. What's up, Yitz? Welcome to the show. Turpin Forster said, Johnny, my guy.
Yep,
Johnny,
man. Yes, sir.
Johnny is late. He was enjoying adult time. I can see.
I was passed out on the couch, Turp. Come on now.
What's up, Orlando? A collector's dream. Good to see you. Mike Double V. Blue. Very easy to do, says Yell. Okay, guys, we are caught up. Here comes what you need to put in the chat to win a $50 giveaway gift card for mintink.ca, which you can use really at a show when you see Mint Ink or online. And by the way, the Mint Ink website is this one right here. And you can see You've got shop now, you got grading, live events, sell your collection. They're doing lots of buying right now, items on sale, buying gifts, lots of different things. It's a really well laid out website. So check it out, mintink.ca. And here we go. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Hashtag mintink50. Put that in the chat, guys, and we'll let it run for a couple of minutes here. Right? You have to type into the chat exactly this. Hashtag mintink50, and you will have a shot to win a $50 gift card to the mintink.ca website. Johnny, listen, I was in your shop last month, and the singles weren't there because they were all already at the Expo.
Yes.
What's going on? Like what is the general vibe in an LCS and probably one of the best ones in Canada, if not North America? And I tell you, it's one of the most beautiful stores I've ever been in, retail wise, not just sports cards. But what's the vibe of customers right now heading into Christmas in terms of the hobby? What are you sensing out there right now?
Okay, so first of all, thank you. So humbling. You're ever so kind. And real quick, the Grail card. My Grail card's ending tonight on Heritage. It's PSA 9 82 Hogan. So I think it's going to do 100,000. I really do. I think the tank could be the first $1 million card. But anyway, just wanted to throw that out there. I'm excited to see how it ends. So yeah, we were there. All the slabs, all the singles, and everything were down at the Expo. So we're very busy for the holiday season. The trade nights, the last couple of trade nights have been very busy. We had a kids' day last week. We do Kid Collectors Day a couple times a month. That was busy, but I was actually there today, and it was packed all day. Families, lots of holiday shopping, lots of there was a mom in there buying Panini football hobby for her kid. That's going to be a good Christmas. But lots of Funkos, lots of TCG. I expect it to be quite busy the next couple of weeks because there's going to be no HST on TCG and toys. So there's some sunny ways ahead, even though it's snowing here. But yeah, it's been a great vibe. Lots of excitement. We had a great time with over Black Friday. We ran a 30-hour live stream. It was awesome. We did 30 straight hours. So much fun. Lots of great moments. But yeah, super excited, and it's definitely a vibe, Jeremy. Definitely a vibe.
What are people like mostly? I mean, listen, you're there. I just watch your Instagrams and I see the customers in the store, people really enjoying being there. Like, what are people excited right now, hobby wise? Like, because listen, I go into my LCS, it's not like it's super packed in there when I drop in on a Tuesday afternoon sort of thing. So I'm not really getting that sense. I was at a local card show today, wasn't very busy. I thought it would be a lot busier. So I didn't really get a great feel for the vibe, but like, are people excited right now at the retail level? Like customers and that, are they, how pumped are they?
we're like, so we're fortunate to be busy. Like I'll be at my office on a Monday and the store opens at 11. I'll look up on the camera and, you know, there's a couple customers walking in the door. The weekends, it's a vibe. You know, we have a lot of people that drive to come there. Online sales are robust, even with the you know, with the strike. We're super fortunate to be a tops distributor, which you know, we might be the only one in Canada, so that keeps us really busy. And of course, Upper Deck's got some great stuff out right now. Ingrained and Premiere are both really good releases. But the singles is wild. There's people in my store all day long chilling at the, you know, remember the table when you first came in where all the value boxes, just hunting all day, whether it's $1 cards or, you know, they're shopping on the computer for more expensive cards. So we're fortunate. We're very busy. And yeah, like just the retail, lots of holiday shopping. We're selling, like I said, lots of collectibles, lots of jerseys, you know, that kind of stuff for sure.
Right on.
But the events, Jeremy, they're a vibe. Like our trade night last week had 90 people in it. I mean, the store is rammed. So for us, I see, you know, we're just picked up right where Expo left off, and that was lights out.
Nice, man. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. I'm noticing on Instagram, some people are putting mintink.50 on there. Those are not going to register, you guys. You have to do it on YouTube. So we'll go a couple more minutes, come over to YouTube, type in hashtag mintink50, and we will do the draw. Leighton, how you doing? You got to make a run now or
Yes.
what?
Yeah, I have to take off, but I really appreciate you having me on. Wish I could stay longer. Thanks for having me, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Good to see you. We'll hopefully see you next week, bud. Take care, man.
Good night. Good seeing you.
All right. Okay. So I like Jeff's card journey. I love when Joe walks on water. I guess you've been moved.
It's cut so good. Like I got like, you know, like I just in this dark room in a corner of my house, and I see like there's folded laundry over there. I was trying to move my head so people could. There's like, I think there's a bottle of wine up there too. It is Saturday night. I was at the Leaf game last night. Man, what a goal Tavares scored, but what a junky game winner. I was hoping to see Ovi when I knew I was going, but obviously he was injured, but still good. And then I went to this wild, it's got nothing to do with the hobby, but it's pretty neat. If it was on my Instagram, it started in New York City and they opened one in Toronto. It's called Miracle, and it's a Christmas bar, and it was like right out of the 1980s. Charlie Brown's Christmas was hanging in the bathroom. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, the Leafs, we were talking about retail, like the retail store. We were looking at some of the memorabilia there, and they're selling cards there now. You're seeing cards, you know, retail cards at a few places now around the holidays, like Staples. So, I mean, it's the hobby is alive.
No doubt, man. No doubt. Right on. Okay, let's do the draw. Jeff Hart, I see you down there. We're going to bring you out shortly. Let's do the draw right now. We have 38 entries. I got 142 people, not including Instagram right now with us. So, but we got several people on Twitter and over 100 here on YouTube, but only 38 entries. So here we go. You got a good chance, you 38 people. I'm going to hit draw and we're going to watch. I'm going to just, let's see what happens here. Good luck, everybody. Let's see who wins, Johnny.
Let's get it. Oh.
Yelia Williams is the winner. Congratulations. So
you gotta run another one still. You can do it after.
We can do another one because we were behind. So we'll do another one. But Yelia, you can't win the second time. Now to the winners, so right. Yelia Williams and whoever wins the next one, in order to claim, send me an email or reach out, and we will. Johnny and his team will send you the gift card code. Right, Johnny? Yeah. That's all it takes. Yeah. It's very simple.
That's all it is. Very easy.
Very easy. You just send me an email to sportscardsLiveshow@gmail.com. Do that, Yelia. If you don't know how to get a hold of me, let me know and we'll get it. I'll put it up on the
How
screen.
are they going to let you know if they don't know how to get a hold of you, though?
Put it in the chat right now. Put it in the chat right now. Bill from Web02 says, thanks to both of us for the $50 he redeemed at their Expo booth. Very Sweet. Cool. Very cool. That. So yeah, here, I'm just gonna put the email address on the screen. I should be prepared for this. I apologize, everybody, but this will not take long. Sports Cards Live Show at gmail.com. I mean, it's simple, but some people don't know where the S's are and all that. So here we go. There it is. Sports Cards Live Show at gmail.com. Congratulations and thank you, everybody, for entering the contest. And those of you on Instagram, apologies, but you'll have to maybe try the second time.
The next one, yeah.
Yeah, try the next one. Try the next one. Johnny, we have Jeff Hart in the background. How long are you good for? You good to stick around for another 10 minutes or so?
If you don't mind my little dark kind of chill room here, I'm good. I'm not doing anything. I got Call of Duty lined up when we're done, so whatever.
I'm good, dude. We're chilling here on a Saturday night.
Same.
Sports Cards Live, baby. We're chilling. All right,
Don't
Jeff, you
mind
good
at
to
all.
come up? He's good. All right, guys. Welcome Jeff Hart to the show. Patriot_sports cards on Instagram. Jeff Hart. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, Jeremy. Thanks for having me. Good to see you, Joe. Nice to meet you, Johnny.
My
And
pleasure.
congratulations on 250.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you were on, I don't know, when were you on with me last? It's been some time, hey?
Probably like maybe a year and a half, 2 years, maybe.
Oh,
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while now. For anyone who doesn't know, Jeff, why don't you now? I don't know. You might have noticed. I had some fun with the YouTube thumbnails, putting together different graphics for all the guests. And you're a basketball collector. You're a PSA set registry. I mean, I found your set registry, dude, and I saw all the awards you had for all your set registry sets. Just amazing stuff. But outside of that, just explain, like, what do you love to collect? I probably just did it, but let's hear it in your own words.
Well, I mean, in a nutshell, in vintage basketball, the main sets that I've built over time have been 57 Topps basketball, 61 Fleer basketball, 71 Topps, 69 Tall Boys. I just did not too long ago. And then, your Hall of Fame players, and probably about almost 2 years ago now, I got into vintage autographs on basically the same cards that I have that are unsigned, but kind of doing like parallel versions of that just for fun.
Nice.
So been into that a little bit too.
So all these awards that you win, where, if anyone out there, like if you are on the PSA set registry, I know I've been for years. I don't do you do anything on it anymore? Because I moved a bunch of cards, and I like low grade, high eye appeal now. That's my jam. So I'm going to be way down there anyway. But what do those awards really mean? And because I put the PSA award that I found on their website around your neck on the graphic, put you in front of a basketball with your Russell and your Chamberlain. Now your Chamberlain, is it an 8.5, a PSA 8.5?
Yep.
Yeah, really, really amazing cards. It reminds me of something. I want to show you a card right now, and we'll get all of our opinions on this, guys, and want to hear from you guys in the chat as well what you think, because I was looking at Joe and I actually the other night, we were kind of hanging out, and we were looking at some cards, and this Wilt Chamberlain sold 2 days ago on Heritage for $132,000. So first off, without looking at the card itself, Jeff, is $132,000 for a Wilt Chamberlain PSA 9? Is that a good deal? Is that average? Is that cheap? Is it expensive?
It's not a great number. If just for the card in general for that grade. So there haven't been many that have sold for under 200. And this copy probably, I mean, you could say it's a good deal, but at the same time, I'd rather own a nicer 8 for cheaper. I would say that the price reflected the copy.
I have to say, I love hearing you say that because you're a set registry guy. So you want to get the highest grade to, you're competing, and I can respect that. But I'd love to hear you say you'd rather have a nice 8, because I looked at this in detail here in 2 dimensions, front and back, and I was basically referring to this. Joe will remember. Johnny, you'll love this. I was basically saying this is a monstrosity of a 9. Like, I think it's
yes,
there are
not
some
very attractive.
It's not very attractive, and I'll show you why. Like we're gonna do a little bit of a deep dive here. I kind of do it on Gretzky's all the time, and we might do a Gretzky a little bit later tonight. But we gotta take a look at this one before we do. Dan's Vintage take a play on my email address. Sports card lives how? I like that, Dan. Very creative. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Triple V. Hello, Jeff. Vintage says not a great number because it's a lousy 9. I mean, he's not wrong. Terp says the only Wilt 10 I've seen was the one recently crossed over from SGC. Yes, old holder. JMF correctly calls out. Matthew, 1956 guy. Jeff Hart is the man. Dude knows his high-grade basketball. He sure does. Mike F., what's going on? I will not be at Acadia tomorrow. It was a one-day deal for me. Dave Marone doesn't. I don't hate that deal on the Wilt that we're looking at. And Mark says, I'm not familiar with that Wilt as far as value. Yeah, well, so let's have a look at this card, guys. Let's have a look at this card. Joe, you'll remember as we dug into it the other day. First off, centering. I mean, this thing is, it's just not centered. How do I get rid of this thing? Come on. God, these auction websites are not good. They're just not good. I can't even see the darn card. Okay, well, anyway, we're gonna zoom in and do it this way. So first of all, okay, no, we're gonna zoom back. Centering. It's not centered. It's not centered. Not only is it not centered, it has tilt as well. Some call diamond cut. It's got tilt as well. The borders are not even up and down. The side borders are not uniform. They get on the right side, it gets narrower as you come down. On the left side, it gets narrower as you go up. So that's the first thing. It's off center vertically and horizontally as well. So double whammy on that. Now let's look at the card itself. Right on his forehead, he's got a birthmark right there. Now listen, I'm all about image quality and eye appeal and print, like the minimal print defect when you're spending 6 figures on a card. He's got a birthmark on his head. That should not be there. Also has a quite prominent fisheye right on his shoulder here. Now, listen, we're being picky here, but then look at these scratches. Now, this is something look at these scratches here. And I was chatting with someone on Instagram and they said, well, those scratches, hopefully they're on the holder. I said, I don't think they are. And he said, I don't think they are either. And this was Matty C. I'm talking to Matty C. We're in DM, and he's a low-grade, high-vintage expert. So not that we know definitively that these scratches are on the card and not the holder, but those don't look like holder scratches to me. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong for the buyers, from the buyer's perspective. But I haven't even shown you guys the worst thing of all on this card, you guys. Okay?
It looks like he has earrings too.
Yeah, it does. Oh, good call. Right? Look at this scratch right here above the shoulder. There is some registration issues. You see the blue glow coming off his ears. That might be what you were talking about. The blue glow coming off the bottom of his ears. You got it in the armpit as well. I have a copy of this card. It's got a bit of this issue here too, but mine isn't blue. It's more reddish. Okay, haven't even shown you guys the biggest problem with this card. Never mind this blue stripe across the top of this purpley background. Okay. Oh, and you can see even on the letters, the registration is off. Yeah. Okay. So the front's a disaster for a 9. Next comment. Let's look at the back. All right. Looks pretty good. You got a nice even border across the top here. The blue is nice and solid. But when you zoom in, guys, what the F is that? What, Jeff Hart, I have to ask you, what is that, dude? Did you see this? What is this rip on the bottom border? Talk to me. Make this make sense.
That's an indentation. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Now, if you think this is bad, you should look at the Jerry West PSA 8. It looks like someone put a Coke can on top of it. And I don't even know if the card was swapped or something happened, because it is so bizarre to even be in a holder. It's amazing.
Did the grader, and now listen, this was graded at PSA, in the 90s. Like this thing is over 25 years old, this slab. still, did the grader not turn the card over?
I don't know. It's in this set that was posted, it was almost a complete set. And most of the cards were PSA 9. There were 8s and 9s, 110. And I would say there was probably at least a half a dozen, if not more, cards that had serious flaws in them. And it almost made you question whether the old PSA cases were cracked open and different cards were placed inside.
Oh man. Guy, let's go to the other guys here. Just get some thoughts. I mean,
Yeah.
Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we were in alignment when we were looking at it the other night. Monstrosity. I don't know if I quite would use that word. I mean, I'd be quite happy with that card, but not at a PSA 9 price, and it's a bit befuddling. I mean, it brings up the question about old slabs, and there's a lot of questions there, and I'd be curious, from Jeff's perspective, as we dig in a little deeper, like, one, how or if he even ventures into older PSA slabs, and then as he reflects on the PSA slabs that he's probably taken in through the years. I mean, for myself, and I don't have that many high-end ones, but I do have a few where I look at them and I go, God, could that have been trimmed? I mean, not, and that's aside from like maybe different standards being applied, or, kind of a lower bar to reach an 8 or a 9 or, a 6 even. But Jeff, do you stay away from older slabs, and or if you do bring an older slab into your collection, do you swap it over? Do you cross it over to a newer slab? And do you have cards in your collection? I'm not trying to out you or anything, but I mean, I think it's fair for all of us to acknowledge, like, we probably look at our collection with slightly more information than we might have had 5-6 years ago, just with some of the developments that we've seen. Do you scrutinize the cards already in your collection with an eye for, could that or might that have some kind of alteration to it?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I've done too much scrutinization of my own cards in the collection, but if I am buying one, I don't shy away from it, but I will definitely give it a much tougher look than if it was in a newer slab, for sure. And what you pay for it, you take that into account. I will say, though, that I prefer, the newer slabs and even the look of them just in general, the labels and everything like that. So if I did purchase, this card or another card, an old holder, I would probably have it reholdered, just to basically kind of lock in that grade per se, But I also, I think it's good hygiene because I've been, set collecting for quite a while. And so I do have a lot of old slabs. So it's probably worth a good hygiene checkup to comb through and look at those and see if I should get some reholder to kind of maybe take a little bit of risk away possibly, or to see if I want to replace it with a different copy. But yeah, there absolutely is red flags out there. So I think I don't think it keeps me, because there is absolutely some high grade, some beautiful cards and old holders, and sometimes preferable because you can get them bumped, like a half-point grade or something like that. And you can get some kind of special deals sometimes, but at the same time, you have to be careful too.
The deals.
Yeah.
It's
Johnny,
Yeah.
Sorry, I wanted to go to you, Johnny, exactly. Your thoughts on the card and whatever else is in your mind.
I mean, you guys are a lot better. This Jeff is, I love when I see him in the PSA feed winning another award. Expert in this, but we buy a lot of slabs, and I really steer away from, unless I can get a really good deal on old labels, because there is so much, question. But at the same time, there is a lot of deals, like Jeff said, and I've had a lot of great success sort of, whether it's reholstering or cracking and resubmitting. I'm doing the same, like a lot of arbitrage with Beckett right now, especially these older, like kind of, BVG slabs. I've been buying lots of Gretzky's, and just like I get the pliers, just it's such a great sound. So yeah, I feel like right now it's an interesting sort of moment in time for the grading, and especially what's happening with with Beckett. And I think that there's an opportunity there. Like, Jeff, what do you think? This should be a 7?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably, I mean, even with the mark, I mean, now, like, if they took that into account, it could even be lower than that. But I would say, I would say on the surface, you're probably about right. 7, 7.5, something like that.
I've seen some cards, like we grade a lot of cards, thousands. And when I see a 5, 6, 7 on a modern card, especially, it's that right there. Like, so I think today that is, like you guys said, much more scrutinized than it was 100 million cards ago. This card was graded 100 million cards ago, so, which is crazy.
This card blows my mind, and I just feel bad for the buyer. I mean, Joe made the comment earlier. He said, "I'd be very happy with this card." Who wouldn't be happy with this card in a PSA 4 holder? I don't think it's a 7. I mean,
you think it's even worse, eh?
Well, look at the bro. I gotta go, bro.
I see your bent. I know. Like, I know it's really bothering you.
I gotta go, bro. Here, guys, bro. Like, look at that. Look at that. That's
Jeremy.
How's that not? That's worse than a pinhole.
You do need, if it's easy enough to pull up that Jerry West, it's really worth a look.
My gosh. Okay. Well, okay. Couple of things. First of all, we do have Mark Zablow's in the back. We'll bring him on in a few minutes. He's in no rush. We'll bring him on in a couple of minutes here. What's this? This is the case. We talked about that. Let me see here. You're talking about the Jerry West now. Okay. So we'll go to here and we will browse all items. I do not find this website easy to navigate. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, I don't even know how to find it. I honestly don't even know how to find it on here, Jeff. Do you?
It's past sale prices. It's just been sold.
Where do I go? Where is that?
Click where it says bid or buy. Click view past sale prices right above it. The tab there. Yeah.
Thank you.
And try that, and then go up to the. Okay.
Is it this one here? No, that's a 6. Oh man.
Yeah, sorry. You have to sort by most recently sold or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here it is.
There we go. No, it's the back.
The back. Oh my God! What?
Oh geez.
What?
Ooh,
what?
Wow.
Sorry, these were not embossed out of the pack, were they?
No. That looks like someone took a beer can and put it on the back. I mean, it's not even. It's mind blowing.
Oh my
$10,000 too, eh?
Look
so
Jeff,
you know the PSA rules pretty good. We were talking about this the other weekend. Would PSA reslab this in a same grade or
no? I mean, that would have to get removed off the market. It's
so they would.
There's no way.
You think they would pay out the submitter and say, we'll cover you for an 8 level West, and we need to take this card back and or reholder it?
Something. I mean, if they did reholder that would be a serious problem.
Yeah.
I see no evidence of what we see on the back on the front. Are we sure it's the same scan? Like, are we sure it's the same card?
I feel like it has to be. I mean,
yeah,
it's too old to have the serial number on the back, right? So we can't verify that, like you can on the new slabs, right?
Right. We don't see 1628. Yeah, we see nothing on the back except some old glue. That's what a mess.
Yeah, it's an old.
What a disaster. Like, yeah, unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Those two cards, guys. Yeah. Okay, so before we bring on Mark Zablow from Bleecker Trading in New York, we'll catch up on comments. Johnny, feel free to jump off anytime or stick around till we go through the comments, and then we're going to bring Zablow on. But comments wise, first of all, on the I like this comment from Dan on the Chamberlain. That left border is like a mountain range. Jeff says it's rough cut. Also, Matt said, nothing wrong with some rough cut. I agree. Jeff agrees too. That's pretty good. Terp says if that was regraded, that card would definitely not be a 9. No way at all. Totally agree. Colin says maybe the scanner is scratched. Doesn't look like the cardboard to me, but hard to say. Cage goes, the front is a disaster. Dude, I think both these cards, the Chamberlain and the Jerry are monstrosities of card. I'm going to use those words. I don't care. I think that's what they are for the grade. Would I like to own both of them?
Word.
I'd be happy to own either of those cards for sure. For sure. Yelia says, crack it out, rub some Kurtz on it, and resubmit. Very easy to do.
Couple days in the
humidifier. Turp says, that's why I don't buy old PSA grades. Jeff says it's a 2 have sent in today. Matthew says, to this day, I've never understood why PSA won't associate a date with all of its certs. Seems easy enough to do. The other companies do it. I agree. Would love to see the date. 100%. We're getting calls for 5s and 6s on these cards now, for sure. Linda, what's going on? Good to see. I do remember you, Linda. Welcome back. Welcome back. Oh, you're Linda's first. That's right. You're Linda's firstborn. That's what you are. Found treasures. New slabs have trimmed cards also. That's right. See, Linda's first. I do remember. Jeff Derrico says Nat will be approving another check run. He'll have to. He'll have to. Dave Marone says PSA has to do a better job with 7 or 8. Yes, they do. They've done a great job at elevating the 7 to 10 grades.
Yeah,
Hobbytown Silver Linings. It's a nice eye appeal 4. Agree. Dan has a question for Jeff. Do the consistency problems between older and newer PSA grades call into question the legitimacy of registry rankings? It's a great question. A really good question, Jeff. Take it as quick as you can, though, because I want to get Zablo on.
I mean, I would say it's kind of just in the eye of who's viewing it and the beholder. Like, you're going to have sets, and a lot of times what you collect, they know a lot of the other people that are collecting the same things, and you kind of know what each other have and what their collections are. So I would say, I mean, if you have scans of your cards and people see that they might not be as strong for the grade, they might have an opinion one way or another. But I'd say in general, you're there to have fun. I've gravitated a lot more towards eye appeal myself, and I'm at the adage of buy what you can afford, and I live by that, and I would say it doesn't affect it too much, I don't think.
Yeah,
Jeff, I'm going to sign off. Jeff, Joe, a pleasure. I got to work on getting my background as good as yours, where my whole head shows, and I'm going to go move my laundry and play some Call of Duty. Jeremy, always a pleasure. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for the giveaways. Appreciate you, Johnny.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
All right. Okay, Richie, how old or what serials and lower are considered old? I mean, it's like there's different generations, but as soon as you get into that hologram on the front and then they switch to the lighthouse, like anything pre-hologram is really old. Even the hologram itself is considered somewhat old. Lighthouse models are pretty good, I would say. Jeff, what do you think?
I think so. I mean, the little hologram was probably, I want to say it was like the early 2010s or something like that.
Yeah. Anything with a 2, like we're starting with a 2 is like 2.23, I believe, is when holograms started. Lighthouses started in the 4s or something. But watch out for ones that start with 5s and some that start with 9s. Those are also very old. I don't know why they did that, but they happened to do that at times. Timepiece here says, my number one complaint that drives me absolutely crazy is how careless people are when handling a slab card. They bang, shake, and justify by saying, who cares, bro? It's slabbed. Yeah, man, I'm with you 100% on that. That is complete nonsense in my mind. Colin says, not all slabs are the same. Sent in old 8s before the half grade and got many bumps to 8.5 and 9. The evolved Matthew 1956 Tops guy says it's evolving. The evolving standard certainly calls into question the registry rankings. I always wonder, is it the standards or the adherence to the standards by which they grade? I don't know if they've changed the standards on the website or just how much they grade according to their own standards. He says the fact that I appeal, that fact and I appeal is a big reason I don't care about the rankings. That's why I've stopped doing it myself as well, or one of the reasons at least. Colin says a lot of 8s and 9s. It should be 6s, no doubt. Laura says, does the time frame of the grade? It does. That's the same comment, Laura, as the serial number, because those are basically aligned, throughout history. Vintage says, I'm careful serial numbers starting with 0 or 1. Have quite a few starting with 2, and they seem to be more accurate. Agree. Matthew, I agree with Vintage Card. Says these websites are brutal. Yeah, I don't understand these auction site I don't understand why their websites are just so bad. Cage said, here's the best part. So many people don't look past the flip. You are opening many eyes here with this segment. Most think, okay, old slabs are maybe a little high. These cards are 4 to 5 grades too high. Yes, I am with you on that, Cage. Hey, Zablo, you ready to pop on? He's ready to pop on. All right. let's bring on Zablo. I'm going to mark my spot on the comments. There's still several we haven't got to. Let's bring on Mark Zablo from Bleecker Trading. Welcome to the show, buddy. How are you?
What is good? How's everyone? Thank you for having me, Jeremy.
You're welcome. I don't know if you know Joe. I've been with Jeff at Bleecker, so I know you know Jeff.
No, Jeff.
Have you met Joe before?
Not as formal as this. No.
Well, nice to. I'm happy to make.
We've hung out many nights in the land of Clubhouse, but not so much in real life. And it's on my bucket list to make it out to Bleecker someday, somehow, some moment.
You know, my favorite thing about the hobby, one of my favorite things, I should lie. One of my favorite things about the hobby is when you go to card shows and you see young people meet each other for the first time and they recognize the Instagram profile cards. Like, oh, wait, are you Instagram XYZ? I've traded with you. I've communicated with you. And it's like this big hug and love. And, you know, Joe, I've watched this show enough that, and obviously Instagram, et cetera, I feel like I know you. So it's just, it's one of the most fun things to me about this hobby, Jeremy, is how you never even meet people, but you've either heard, watched, been in, you know, crazy interactions with them. And it's all family.
No doubt, dude. I love, like it's one thing to recognize somebody from YouTube and see them in person, or somebody who does a lot of IG lives and see them in person. It's another thing to know who someone is just by the cards that they're showing you at your booth. And then you look at the cards, you look up, you're like, are you such an, like, how do
I'm not making that up though, right?
I know.
You all experienced that, I'm sure.
I can't do that. I do not. I can't keep track of people's names, never mind names, IG handles, other handles elsewhere as well, channel names. It's impossible. Totally. So listen, have you been listening to the last 15 minutes here?
Yeah, I caught up a little bit to where you guys were going. And let me be crystal clear, like grading cards is not, my expertise at all. Obviously I'm surrounded by the world of grading and, we do a tremendous amount with the grading company. So it's really interesting to me. But as an expert, I think, it's really interesting for me to listen to you guys talk about the true expertise of what was happening there. That was a good education for me.
Right on. Well, I want to just do a couple more comments on that topic, and then we're going to switch it up. We're going to talk about Fanatics Fest for a couple reasons. I mean, listen, I was at it last year. I was at your shop during Fanatics Fest. Jeff worked for Fanatics events. So we're going to have a bit of a conversation, and then we're going to have Michael Ham is going to join us, and he's got his thoughts on it. He's not due on here for another, oh boy, he's actually due on in about 7 minutes. So I want to just read this comment here from Timepiece. He says, PSA should have a rule that requires reslabbing every 5 to 10 years to qualify for the guarantee that PSA offers. They could even upcharge us for it. Who would complain? What could you do about it? It's an interesting, it's like my wife's engagement ring. If I want to keep I bought it from a place where if you bring it in every year for an examination, you get like some kind of guarantee. I've never brought it back in, so I've lost that privilege because I just forgot, but it's something similar to that. That's an interesting concept, Timepiece. We need to think about it. We don't have time right now, maybe on a future episode, but I do like the discussion about that right there. He says he agrees with Cage that you have opened up many people's eyes with today's discussion. However, also according to Cage on your last show, this discussion would qualify as pumping or advertising. Okay. Dan says, I experienced that at a show today. Guy was like, I know you from somewhere, ended up being YouTube. I've had people recognize my voice and look up at me and say, are you Sports Cards Live? I'm like, yeah. Like, can't you tell on my shirt? They're like, I just heard your voice. Pretty funny. Earl here says the exact thing happened today. Was at a show. We had something tragic happen in our family. About 70 people approached me. Oh, it's really nice to hear. Sorry about the tragedy in your family. That's not nice to hear about. Okay. All right. We're going to switch it up now, guys. So Fanatics Fest. First of all, we'll start with you, Zablo. I was there last year in New York. This year. This past summer in New York. I thought it was a great event overall. I don't care how much money they lost or what people are saying. I don't know how much money they lost. I don't care. I had a good time at Fanatics Fest. You have an LCS, you have a gathering space, a social club, if you will, called Bleecker Trading in New York City. I've been there a few times now. It's a great vibe there, Zablo. Tell us a little bit about like what you're doing in advance of and with Fanatics Fest coming up this year, coming up in June of 2025?
Well, look, for us, Jeremy, it was a very exciting announcement to hear that they were bringing it back to New York. Obviously, selfishly, there were some announcements that weren't as positive. Orlando lost its show. We heard a lot of rumblings about maybe LA, which, you think about who's in LA, Shohei, LeBron, like could be like some kind of amazing experience if they do that. So, we were kind of more like in the same world of you guys of like, hey, what's happening? You're hearing a lot of the rumors left and right. They lost money. They didn't lose money. But hearing it come to New York was exciting for us for, a couple of good reasons. I think one, obviously, you saw what the experience was like and what we're able to do, having the hobby descend on our city and really kind of show that off in an extreme way. I think also for New York, though, we kind of set on that mission 4 years ago. There weren't really that many card shops in New York City. We don't obviously have a lot of card shows. New York wasn't a destination for the hobby. And we'll argue if it wasn't for us up until Fanatics Fest, there was nothing happening in New York City for the last 4 years for the hobby. And so for me, one, I was excited because I actually get to go hang out at somebody else's party. And, seeing that come in from Fanatics, they're going to do a better party than everybody. So it really is twofold for us. One, it's if you've ever owned a business in the city that a Super Bowl comes to, that's what it was like for us. The Super Bowl of sports and sports collectibles came to New York City, and we had one store at the time. We have a second store that just had opened that week. So that's a big business driver for us and a big networking week and a big time to show off the hobby. But for New York alone, we think that's a big win. So that's great. And I'm pumped for you. I mean, listen, I said, I've been to Bleecker. I think I've been to Bleecker twice. Once. Because the National, when the National was in Atlantic City 2 years ago, you guys, it was really cool, man. You arranged a bus to take people from your shop in New York to Atlantic City. I hopped on that bus. It was just a great group. It was a lot of fun. It's just a great vibe. There's always pizza and drinks there. There's the outdoor terrace in the back. If you're ever in New York City, you have to go by Bleecker. There's no doubt about that. It's a must. There's a few musts around North America, I would say, that you got to get into if you're in the cities. That's one of them. But here's what I want to ask you too. We've heard a lot. First of all, what did you think about the event itself, the card show aspect of it last summer, and the non-card show? Like 30% of the floor was card show, 70% was other. Look,
what did you think about both aspects?
I went with my kids, and I had a table as well. So it wasn't like Cage, who just, fuck off, Cage, but sorry, Jeremy. But I know it's, I just went with my kid and had some fun, or other people that were just no, I did both. I truly went by myself for a couple of days. I went with my kids for a couple of days, and I ran a booth in a very prominent space. We had events going on in and out. You mentioned the bus that we did a couple years ago. We're always looking for what is everyone not doing. You don't need us to come in and do big breaks. You don't need us to come and do what a lot of the major stores do. So we're always looking at that white space. And for us, outside of the programming we were doing, we were learning a ton. Wow, what does WWE bring to the equation, right? I think you could have got rid of every sports league and just had WWE and UFC. Yeah. And we have a reason as collectors to set up opportunity for economy. So I was looking at a lot of how are the brands activating? What's driving people? I went into it with the mentality that this is probably a lost leader for them. So where are the pockets of hope? How many Travis Scott boxes did they sell? Which really cost zero, right? It's a deal with Travis Scott printing some paper. But the cardboard generates a couple of million in sales. So how many times over, in my head, I'm watching, can that be created now that you see a 40-40 club, or moving it to June when you have more access to NBA and football players versus August where that's a little bit more restrictive. So I was looking at a lot of that and saying, hey, there's a lot of things that you don't really need here, but they're nice to have. You don't need to see a championship trophy, but it's a nice to have. I felt the way a lot of collectors felt. Collectors were kind of to the right. We were very lucky, though, Jeremy. We had a little bit of an audience at Fanatics Fest corporately. And so we were very positive and confident going into it that they were there to listen. They didn't come into this saying we were going to reinvent, we were going to win, we were going to beat this, we were going to compete with that. They were going to come create something. And I think if you've never started something from scratch, sometimes, you learn it takes a lot of getting things wrong to figure out where something fits. Mm-hmm. And, my belief going into it was they had a lot of the smart people that if those opportunities will exist, they'll know where to kind of pour the gasoline on. So my experience was very positive all around. I did, again, as the owner of a booth, as a collector, I wish we had more of a presence. I wish the Travis Scott event happened in the middle of our booths. That's what I'm always looking at is as well. My new store is next to a pizza place. Why? Because being next to the number one pizza place in the country has increased my sales. So, it's very simple things. Otherwise, I thought they did a good job. I've heard Cage really talk a lot about, hey, what do you get? And I think they didn't do a great job building out the VIP package. I don't think they did a great job communicating a lot of what is going to happen. But again, if you've never started something before and you have someone as magical as Michael Rubin, it's they improvise. Things are going to go, and so a lot of times you can't, especially corporately, legally, and all the terms and conditions, even communicate those things. But I had a wonderful experience. Yet I saw a lot of the flaws that I think a lot of the hobbyists saw as well.
Yeah. I mean, I have to think that they're going to be taking a lot of feedback that they received and doing something about that going forward. I'm speculating on that. I'm hopeful.
Well, they did a survey. Did any of y'all fill out the survey?
I did not.
Okay, I don't know who it went to, if it went to dealers or so-and-so, but the survey was incredibly reflective of what happened. And then there were a lot of leading questions that you're now seeing in the answers. What would it take to you to pre-buy a ticket? What would it take for you to spend more on a ticket? Are you interested in collabs? Are you interested in one-of-one collectibles? Would you pay more for exclusive collectibles? A lot of that was in the surveys they were asking dealers. Do brands like Kith matter to you? Brands like Bleecker Trading matter to you? So I do think they're doing a lot of listening, and you're seeing that. I know Cage has been calling that out, but I think if everyone kind of lets it mature a little bit, look how early they're out now. They're out 6-7 months ahead. They were out like 4 months before. They're doing it in a perfect time of year. I canceled a vacation at the end of August to go to that event. Most people in New York are not there that week or two of August. It's a lot of camps and people take their trips before school, hot time of year.
So is this new date? Is it June now? Is this going to be a better date for the event? It's
an incredible day. And, Northeast, which has a lot of sleepaway camps, a lot of the kids are leaving right in and around that versus already being gone. So you have a lot. Families. And then just for the city itself, August is hot. Not that June's any better, but August is the worst.
Yeah. Fair. Okay. So, we're going to go to a few comments here. We have Michael Ham in the back. Ham, give me about 15 more minutes here. We're a little bit behind. But first of all, so vintage card collector, zero interest in Fanatics Fest. See you at the National. And that's fair. But to me, it's like, if you could do both, do both. But anyway, that go where you want to go. Breakers HQ says the event was set up as the best show ever, and the VIP package was terrible. Disappointing, in my opinion. I heard that comment quite a bit, and I have to think they've got that message by now. Yit says vintage trade night coming up at Bleecker. You have a no? Well, maybe we'll get one going.
We don't know. We will be programmed. That's for sure.
And then, Timepiece Esquire here. For a genius billionaire, Michael Rubin is making a lot of rookie mistakes. Here's some advice. Hire or poach 3 to 4 key employees from Upper Deck, design nice cards, on-card autos, use game-used jerseys, profit. I mean, that makes it sound easy, but some of those things aren't as easy to execute on, but maybe Michael Rubin can get those sorts of things done. Cage says, I filled out the survey. It was more geared towards us for collectors. It showed they wanted to see what we wanted at the show. That's good to know. I didn't see it. I didn't have to pay my way in. I was given a media pass, you could say. So I wasn't on their email list, I guess. But here's my question. They had EJ Ferrer was kind of he was the dealer relations guy, and they let him go. And I don't know what kind of job EJ did. I don't know what they thought of the job he did. I had no idea. But I wonder, like, they lost with him, there goes all those personal relationships he had. He's a very popular guy in the hobby. What do you think that does to the do they care that do dealers care that he's gone, or they'll just talk to whoever they send their way?
Look, EJ and I spoke the other day, and I reiterated to him that EJ's given me some of the best advice out of everyone that I've spoken to on how to navigate Fanatics. Truly. I'm more than thankful to EJ for the things he did from afar. Forget about where he could put his finger on the scale, the things he did from afar. That's the stuff you're talking about, Jeremy. That secret sauce right there, that no matter how you replace him, you can't replace that, right? That's all of us bring something of that equation from a hobby. Unfortunately, and I say this as a businessman, Jeremy, the only relationship they need with 400 dealers or 100 dealers or 700 dealers, and I'm sure every show promoter is going to tell me I know nothing because I'm not a show promoter, but in my opinion, the only relationship they need is my email address. Most of us have a Tops account with a store, have a Tops account for breaking, or are an influencer shooting content and getting a table. What more do they need to do to either say, hey, we're creating this really amazing experience that we're going to let you come to, right? Think about how many dealers don't have Tops accounts or relationships that would just love to go, right? That are not qualified according to them. So one is, hey, you're lucky we're going to let you go. And I say that out of with gratitude. Like, they're producing this for us to get to go and make money and represent our brand. On the flip side, take EJ out of it, put their salespeople in the case, put their Fanatics live people in the case. Couldn't they tell me it doesn't look good if I don't go get a table? Right?
Yeah.
Like, if you read the way they've talked about Hobby Shop 2.0, right? Wouldn't it make sense for every dealer to have a Fanatics Collect, Fanatics Breaking, Fanatics Bet, a table at the shows? That's still the mantra, I think, of what we're seeing this ecosystem become. So with all due respect to EJ, while he can get into the secret sauce of what makes that feel magical, for them to hit their bottom line of 400 dealers or 700 dealers, they're kind of doing the hard part of building the experience for us and letting us in. And then they got a little bit of leverage if they want. And then on the flip side, let's say you show up and do well. What can they do for you? They can king make you, right? They can put you in a commercial. They can make your store a prominent event for Tops Rip. They could give you, hey, you're going to do the early launch of the next product on Fanatics Live, right? They can invite you to a dinner in Tokyo or Macau with the top dealers in America. Like, there's so much they can do for you. So when they're doing it up here, what do they need any one person for, right? It's now become a big, big machine.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, well said. You're getting a lot of support in the chat as well. And listen, I
don't like it. I wish our friends ran the shows. You know what I mean?
Sure. But you're also a realist, and you're also a logical thinker. I know that about you from all the times we've spent together chatting. So, okay. We're going to do quick comments here. First of all, Professor, yes, I did not get my wife a Gretzky rookie card for our engagement. Vintage says you have to pick one. 90% plus people looking for vintage will pick the national. Not even close. Yeah, I think that goes without saying. And I don't even know that Fanatics would concern themselves with the vintage. They're not in the vintage business. They're in the ultra modern business.
Can I bring up one point? I don't want to interrupt in any of the comments, but I think it's very important. No matter what percent of collectors that are not going to pick one or the other, there's a tremendous percent of Fanatics Fest attendees that are not even considering the national because they don't even participate.
Yeah, exactly.
So to your point, I don't think they're thinking.
I think you're right. I don't think either event is going to suffer because of the existence of the other.
I think there's a small percentage of people that won't do both, but it won't be enough to make an impact.
Agreed. Okay. Now I'm gonna save one of my topics. I'm gonna save for when Michael Ham comes on in a few minutes here. But let's go to Jeff for a second, because Jeff worked for Fanatics event. So Jeff, do you have any? And I don't know if you have, if you are what you're allowed to say, not allowed to say, based on being no longer there at Fanatics, because you were an employee, I believe, of Fanatics event, so directly associated to Fanatics Fest and the card shows that they don't seem to be doing anymore, that they've canceled, Pittsburgh and Orlando. But what insights, if any, do you have on any of this and what Mark was saying and the general thoughts on the event?
Yeah, I mean, so I had a pretty good perspective. I was there. They have a very lean team. It's like a startup that they're running with the events group, and I was their finance person. So I have a little bit of insight into the finances of that. Not to where it ended up, because I wasn't there at the time of when the show, but I was there till about the middle of this year. And it's a very talented team, great leadership, and very smart people over there. So I think, to some people's points, I think they're going to get it right eventually. I think they're good at taking feedback. That was an observation I took. And, I think that there's definitely, I think it was an absolute home run for their first time doing it. And it brought a lot of people, sports fans, that hopefully will become, card collectors at some point. I think that they could do a better job this time around. Not that they didn't before, but of bringing in new collectors and kind of exposing them to cards. So like the actual activations and the excitement and all that, athletes and the celebrities, that was all great. But I kind of felt that the card section was sort of on its own, well, off to the side a little bit. And it didn't really, for the people that didn't care about the cards, they just did everything else, and didn't explore as much. We're kind of putting the cards at the center and the hub of the show, or intermingling in between or something like that, to maybe pull in those new collectors, was something that, they can maybe do a little bit differently. And I think Cage made some really great points on what to offer the fans, and maybe, the people coming back for their second time around, and what they can do. And I think there's a lot of great ideas out there that they could take advantage of.
Yeah, well said. I mean, it all makes sense. I mean, you said you thought it was a home run, and I agree. I was there. I thought it was an amazing event. I had a great time. I thought the card show portion was awesome. Great vendor selection. A lot of high end, not a lot of dollar quarter boxes to thumb through, but a lot of nice cards to look at. The rest of the floor was just it was an amazing display of various leagues. All the sports were covered. It was pretty awesome. But you said it was a home run. It was a home run, but it wasn't a grand slam. And the grand slam would have been, the better VIP bags, the better autograph line wrangling, the things that people did sort of complain about, like Zablo said, put the Travis Scott thing in the middle. I hope for the sake of the hobby that they do take it from a home run to a grand slam next year. I don't know if I'm going to be there or not, for sure. I hope to be, but we'll have to see how things are looking leading in. But we will see. So Zablo, anything to jump in with?
I just think it's, also take a look at the team. Most of those people got hired after the announcement and during the planning. They've now had a year to work together. They've now had a year to meet people at Tops, to meet people in the hobby, to meet people across the board. So the home run, I think, is fair. We need to be the milk aisle, right? You got to walk through, really, like we got to be like the most desirable place, and they got to put us right there. So I think there's no reason for them to do it if it's not going to be a grand slam. And I think it's just take a step back and oh my God, to your point, Jeff, they like to listen, right? If you look at what Cage has been really stressing of, hey, they should be offering this, he's offering this. Look at their communication right now. Pre-buy, right? And they're starting to leak out those little things. So we just have a lot of time. I know from our end, we're going to be looking to do a lot of events to promote it. We did a tremendous amount of ticket sales. They were kind enough to let us do a buy one, get one free if you bought the ticket in store. And we know that worked tremendous for us. So I hope on the flip side, Jeremy, they'll also be able to rally 99 other shops a lot earlier than unfortunately they didn't have the time to do last year. So, you got to really, quantify that and let that really compound over what that's going to develop this far out.
Yeah, no, makes good sense to me. All right, we've had Michael Ham waiting in the background long enough, so I want to bring him out. So, Jeff Hart, I want to thank you for coming on this week. We'll get you back again in the future. Great insights, and we could keep going, but we got lots going on here tonight, buddy. So thank you so much for coming on.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Yeah, man, you bet. All right, so we are going to bring on now Mr. Michael Ham. You ready? You ready to go? All right, Michael Ham, I'm going to move you over here so I can keep track of things. Welcome back, buddy. How are you?
Good. How you doing? How everybody else doing up here?
Awesome.
Doing good.
Okay. So listen, Mike Ham, I just call him Ham. Ham, you've been a little bit critical of Fanatics Fest and all that, and it's fair, and I think it's good that we have some discourse. And as baseball curmudgeon says, "Where's Ham? No debate." No, we can get into a little bit of a. We don't have to, but we can. I mean, if it's
I've been listening, obviously backstage. I've been watching the show the whole time. Mark hits the points, both the positive and the negative, and he hit a lot of them. They can't come out with junk VIP bags. The VIP bag has to feel like you missed out. That's what that needs to be. If you can't do that, you're failing right there, and you're going to piss off the more important people that usually have the channels, the shows, the people that set up at the shows, the card shops, and very few people that don't have interaction with the rest of us realistically. That's what people go for, because you're looking for like that Cactus Jack box in that VIP bag. I didn't go to the show, so I'm speaking through everybody else's experience. And the other stuff I know is from the back end with like companies. And they all complain about the loss of money that they took during this show. And Ruben did not tell them that loss was going to be that big. And I'm not talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm talking of millions. Even Fanatics said they lost millions. So you're going into a show knowing you're going to blow a few $1 million and hope to get an ROI out of it somehow. But like WWE that's there, they don't need that ROI. They have completely different outsourcers for that. And for them to bring everybody they brought like that next time, I don't see that happening, because that's where all their money got spent. So, and the same thing, like you said, okay, it's coming earlier now than, was it June, right?
Yeah.
So more players are available. We hope, at least, because we don't know if they're going to be willing to pay to bring those guys in. We usually see the old timers, the retired guys come in because they're not doing anything and they're cheaper. Okay. So it makes it easier, but we all see those people say they need that impact person. And of course, being friends with Brady and all the other friends that he has, he gets a little bit more showmanship there, that there's the ooh and ah factor. That's great, but you have to put the whole thing together properly. And like Mark said too, they only had so much time to get this together. People were coming in and out. But if they don't hit the grand slam this next time around, if they do the show again, people are going to start thinking it's a joke. They don't advertise leading up. You have no idea what you're walking into. You're just hoping it's going to be great. It has a great allure because you don't have to like cards to enjoy that show, because it's almost like a completely different environment. But not mixing cards in to help gravitate towards all the monopolies they've been putting together is a huge miss, because they're trying to create this market share where everything goes through breaking, buyouts, stuff like that, pre-orders. And it's right now it's not working for them. They're not doing a successful job on the card side. The best thing they've done through Topps is the Topps debut patch. I mean, outside of that, what have they done to do anything better for the hobby? They've kind of just pissed everybody off. And I know people can't go into Ruben and be like, hey, this sucks, blah, 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 because you pissed them off and now you're not allocated. You don't get to have a store no more. And you're doing whatnot for a living, because you got to bend the knee and kiss the ring. I get it. I understand it. He's running the roost right now, and they don't want to compete with the National. It's two different environments, But for instance, does Fanatics go to the Mint? Isn't that the one where all the big companies come together?
I don't remember. I mean, I was at both mints. There were only ever two of them, and I don't remember if Ruben. He was I have to think he would have been there, but I don't remember.
I've never heard of that interaction, because that's kind of like a behind the scenes of everything going on. And since they own the most of everything going on,
Let's see if that. Do you know
if Ruben was at the Mint?
Yeah.
I don't remember Ruben being at the Mint. I do remember, though, at the last Beckett Fest or Beckett National Summit, whatever they called it. I was there at that one, and Fanatics trading cards did not show up. Fanatics autographs did, and what trading cards did, Jeremy, they got a hotel across the street, and they held their dealer meetings across the street.
Right. So they were there. It's kind of. Yeah.
They were there to say we're not there.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, that it was a snowball effect where you'd be in the room and you would hear from a buddy, I just met with so-and-so from Fanatics, but at the Venetian across the street. And then people were running back and forth to the bar. Funny story. A couple dealers were buying a little too much Fanatic autograph items, thinking they were talking to the Fanatics card guys there. That's how how messed it was.
Ham, you're going to jump in?
No, it's just, again, something like that. They're separating themselves from the rest of the hobby that they control. That's not a good look. I don't really care. If they want to say they're willing to play ball with everybody and they're like open to, there's enough room for everybody / we want everything. It doesn't seem like that. I feel like it's kind of talking out of, both sides at this point. Ruben's obviously very rich. He's made a bunch of money, and I'm sure there's smart people around him. But right now, with everything that's been going on, I don't feel like they're smart. I feel like they're just pissing everybody off, and they're coming in hot, and they're being forceful. And that's not this type of hobby. Like,
well, let's see, because I don't deal with Fanatics directly, but Zablo, you do. What is Ham onto something there, or do you have a different perspective?
I can't.
Don't get yourself canceled.
No, look. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you not wanting me to get canceled. And by the way, I never do this because I usually can get ours canceled. So
yeah,
I wanted to talk to Jeremy tonight because I did feel that because Fanatics is coming out so early and heavy, and how wonderful they were to us, not Michael Rubin, not the salespeople that control allocation, but the Fanatics Fest team, Lance Festerman, both EJs, there's 2 EJs there, Carly, and that whole crew on down, from a marketing and experience standpoint, were fantastic. So I did feel it was important for me to come on and have this conversation while it was timely. What I will say, Michael, is I don't do the purchasing for the company, so I don't have a direct firsthand relationship. What I will tell you is we have the same complaint every store does. We don't get enough. We got the exact same complaint. On the flip side, it is what this was the best advice EJ Farrer did give me when he was there. It's a very big company. And there's a lot of people I can talk to that don't live in allocation land. They just got to get something done at their job. It may need to be cool or compelling or hard hitting, but they need help from the hobby. And I have very fortunately been able to make a lot of inroads personally, and our team has been able to make a lot of inroads personally with those marketing folks. And the marketing folks where I have direct firsthand experience have been nothing but lovely. Now, are they all from the hobby? Do they truly understand everything? No. But they're trying. They care to learn. I will say this. I have worked with most corporate brands in the hobby, whether in front of the scenes or even behind the scenes consulting. And I'd say 90% of the people that work there, this is a pit stop. This is a job. They don't care about the hobby, but they can't get excited about the hobby. Where I've met people at Fanatics that are not into collecting, they have chosen to get excited about the hobby. They're not faking it and collecting. They're excited about the hobby. They're excited about their job. So to me, yes, Fanatics, we got the same complaint in a good and bad way that every card shop does when it comes to allocation. But from a marketing standpoint, look at what I'm here to talk about. They're bringing events. They're starting early. They're trying to learn.
They've only really brought one event. They cancel all the rest of them. That's part of the problem too.
And maybe that's kind of where you're really hitting it on the head. Is, hey, they're coming with, we want to do all these great things. And maybe it's not that they're doing something bad, but they're not slowing down to ask what we really need. What do we really want? And maybe to your point, did we need some of these local shows, and do we need all these things? Absolutely not. But I do think that somewhere along the lines, we do need better shows.
Yeah.
We do need a higher standard of experience for brands and athletes and celebrities to come in. When you talk
agree.
to athletes and agents, they hate coming to the shows.
Yep.
Right? Why did Ruben spend 5 or 10 million or 50 million, whatever the numbers are, on that 40-40 club experience? It wasn't because Allen Iverson's going to like hanging out at the show more. No, it's the 10 people that roll and hang and want to go with Allen Iverson will love to hang in there. Free food, free drink, hobnobbing with America's business elite, walking out with dope 40-40 merch. That's going to convince all the other athletes. You got 90 of your friends. We got to be there. We got to be there. We got to be there.
You got to have a lure. Yeah.
So, to me, it's, I think on one side of the bucket, I'm not even looking at what they're doing to us, Jeremy, on the cards and the allocation, Michael, and that. What I'm looking at is I just bought some cards. I bought a jersey for a birthday gift on Fanatics.com, and they sent me gambling credit. I do have customers, Michael, that have said I'm a big gambler.
Yep.
And some access and cards for
But
my
do you
gambling
think that's
loyalty.
valuable for this hobby when we're trying to pitch it to children?
So hold on, different topic, and you're
Okay.
right, absolutely right. But I want to land it with this. That means, in my opinion, we have a 1 to 3 year runway where we should be grateful, thankful, attentive, and doubling down before we're not the hot topic in the building. Because if anyone in the chat, what you're reading, they're going to IPO, make billions of dollars, it's coming from gambling, not from cards, guys.
Correct, 100%.
So while that
Right, and
matures,
but that's also part of my fear too. Is Ruben's using this as a stepping stone to somewhere else and to create a new environment that, let's face it, the majority of the hobby doesn't actually like. We're forced into. I can't buy product because it's so high now. I have to go get into a break because I'm not paying $1,000 a box for a jumbo box of Bowman Chrome. That's ridiculous.
Completely. And maybe Ruben took a look at that and said, look at what I'm doing on Fanatics Collect. Look at what I'm doing here. Can I really go to Pittsburgh and Orlando and do a local show? Or is my minimum Jay-Z 40-40 Javits Center and everything needs to be bigger from there? So maybe they didn't
that
fail.
Orlando
Maybe it
show
just
would
wasn't
have been
worth
very
it.
good. That Orlando show would have been. That Orlando show would have. I live in Florida. I go to my main shows in Tampa. I have 4 shows a month every weekend. And the one thing we miss in Florida is a very large, massive show. And we have a lot of card dealers in this entire state and surrounding states that would easily come to Orlando for a weekend. Like, without a doubt. You can bring the family. They go do their thing. I go do mine.
Why do
There's
you
not a
think
whole
they
lot of places
canceled
that
it
have that. They use their money. And they didn't have anything together. I know people that were going to set up at it, and they were basically like, hey, I need you to set up at this show. It's X amount of dollars a table. You can't say no. There's no. Because if you say no, you're never asked again. That's the force they're bringing. And in Florida, retired athletes, famous actors, other people that are living this state that are doing pretty much nothing half the time. Super easy to get, convenient for them, can give them a
But
nice
is
place
that,
to stay.
I'm saying, again, I agree with you that would have been impactful. But I'm just thinking about it. If everything's not making money, if you're Michael Rubin, is that then worth it? Or does it have to be, no,
that
I
event
can't do a Travis Scott collab as big there.
He wouldn't have done that here, though. But that's what I mean. He wouldn't have done that here. This was going to be more of a card show with other stuff. This would have been a good way for them to feel the card show side, like a Dallas Plus, and then bring a little bit more entertainment excitement into it without it having to be the production of New York.
Right. So when you're trying to get to 30, 50, 60 billion, I'm not saying it wouldn't have worked. I'm saying, is it worth it?
I don't think it would have been that much. Plus, at Javits Center, from what I hear, they didn't even fill it up. So they have plenty of space to expand.
Right. And I think they have a lot, like making it up. If they expanded, if they grew the revenue at Javits Center by 15%, is that worth it? Is that double doing 5 Orlando shows, right? Like, think about the magnitude of Javits, Jeremy, when you walk.
Until I would see numbers, or at least you attempt it, I couldn't even give you an example.
No, I'm just doing back and napkin math in my head from going to the Dallas show. Like, if the Dallas show doubled, I don't think that would be close to what would happen if the Fanatics Fest grew 5 or 10%.
I think they've also recognized the hobby's changed a lot from when they initially started to get in, finally took over, and then they still haven't even really taken over with all the licenses. They've just done their things. The hobby trend is most cards are down, and almost all the cards are down. You know, the flipping doesn't exist the same way it used to do. Everything's very break driven, very social media driven. And they're, I think, also having to shift gears a little bit with what they're trying to do. I almost feel like they're doing too much at one time, and they're not taking enough time to really focus and then make one or two things really good.
They don't make their money if cards go up or down.
No, but if they put the right people, like they put the John
In fact, they make a lot of money when cards go down because more people are panic selling, and they're getting a piece of that on Fanatics Collect. Probably is my guess.
Correct, and that's why they're trying to get the tie-in with grading, or not, we're reselling.
Look at their math, right? They sell the product to me at a price. I sell it in my store. They sell it to a breaker for a price, and then they take 9% of the retail price when the breaker sells it too. Yep. You know, they have so many ways to make money.
Yeah, it's like the government.
You know, that I think in their mind they probably are looking at, if from the survey questions at least, it sounded like if they can make every activation have a Travis Scott element, not as big maybe, that will drive more revenue than having to worry about selling an extra 10,000 tickets or things like that. And that's what Comic-Con is. That's what Complex Con is. And that's where Lance comes from. So I think that to them, that's probably a much better use of tripling down those resources than maybe going to Pittsburgh. Maybe Orlando's a bad example. Maybe Pittsburgh's a better example.
Pittsburgh. I mean, I was in Pittsburgh earlier this year. That would have been a bad place to attempt that the way they wanted to do it. Because I know when I was there, and I was there with the Tampa Bay Rays team itself, and the limitations you still have, and they were trying to overcome that with the show, Pittsburgh would have never let them do it the way they wanted to. And I think that was part of their problem, is they couldn't actually do it the way they wanted to in the stadium because they weren't going to allow them to use the field at all. Couldn't touch the field. I
mean, look, I think, you know, one of the things that they were able to bring out in New York City that it's harder to bring out, like you bring up the example of the retired players in Florida, you know, think about which autograph, you know, talent they can bring out there versus other cities. I think when you talk about who's coming to these shows, you get a lot of dads that really aren't going to wake up and drag their kid to a card show, but they're going to go drag across Long Island to go see Jalen Brunson. That's something that they're going to go do. And that means something that, hey, that's people we may get into our card area, right? I think it's, again, looking at what brings the best product out too. I looked at the autograph, the people that had booked for autographs in Orlando. I don't think there was anyone there that wasn't difference between that and most other TriStar card shows.
Correct.
But it's Fanatics, so you have to expect something different. If the best they're doing at a show is Bo Jackson, then like then we don't need them, to be fair. Right? We could do that on our own. You're doing that already in the great state.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Okay, we got a break. So I want to go, Joe, you got a question for the fellas.
Well, in some ways, I feel like between Ham and Zablo, they actually kind of answered it, but I'll just ask it directly. It's a very simple question. Like, what do you guys think the goal, both the stated external goal and maybe the underlying internal within the organization goal of Fanatics Fest is?
Let's go to Zablo.
It's experience.
Oh, okay. Or Ham.
At the end of the day, it's experience. It makes you, oh, I went to this. I had a great time. I can't wait for the next one. That's what you're looking for. But you got to come in and hit 9 out of 10. Okay? Like or Grand Slam. You can't come in and all of a sudden, again, the VIP bag cannot be crap. As soon as you do that, you're already pissed off and you just walked in the door.
So let me go, because you're talking about I think the goal of Fanatics Fest is to expose sports fans to sports. One of the goals is to expose sports fans to sports cards. I think that's a goal of theirs, not to appeal just to all the regular collectors who are, you know, like us, Ham. I think they're more interested in bringing new people into the hobby so they can achieve the 10x the hobby that has become the Fanatics mantra, because Ruben said it a few times.
Like you said, though, the show was split. So they're bringing them in, but they're not kind of force feeding them into the card
that can
side.
be improved upon, right? So that is something, though, that like you you could have got there like any family. It was right there. You just had to walk over there as you checked out the event. So they could potentially, like Zablo said earlier, put the milk at the back of the store. We got to be the milk. Like that makes sense. Make them walk through the cards to get to the leads, the activations, the experiences. That would be good. But I want to hear Zablo's thought on Joe's question, which was, what is the purpose of Fanatics Fest? What do you think it is?
I wish it was about cards, Jeremy. I look at it more from a hierarchy. You have what I call I don't know if this is their word or not, but for a couple years, I've been calling it the Fanatics Passport. And that is your jerseys, your cards, your gambling, and God knows what other experiences they're building out right through in the future, other verticals. But I think that's the goal, is to wrap sports fans into one trusted place where all of their commerce happens. And when you talk to Fanatics, or you listen to any of the interviews with their leadership team, their board members, the people on their executive committee, not people working on the next top campaign, what they're truly talking about is every dollar they spend, they want it to have an impact on the licenses and the leagues that they're partnered with. So anything that grows the value of the NBA IP is where Fanatics wins. And that is when you look at the overarching goal of what they're doing. So to think that NBA, WWE, MLB, NFL can't take a loss leader to do this, they're all building each other's IP is kind of that mantra. So I think it's more about how do you add value to that passport? If you're a big gambler and you're on the fence with MGM and FanDuel, and you're now getting an email from – and we saw the lawsuit from some of I think it was DraftKings folks that went over to Fanatics. You get that email, hey, come hang with us at the 40/40 at Fanatics Fest. And you go there and you went backstage and you're meeting Hulk Hogan and you're meeting this one. And then your kids came around and got to go run the 40-yard dash and catch a football from Tom Brady. And then at night you did X, Y, and Z. Are you not going to drop your gambling money there? Right? So I think it's more about that, Jeremy. I think it's about that, an ecosystem for their passport, quote unquote. And this is one element to it. Where it comes to cards, this is that exact way. If you quadrupled the national, it's not 10xing the hobby. It's just more of us going. There is not a VIP package at the national that matters, except you get in a little bit early. You don't need the extra badges for those autographs. I can't get a table at the National to save my life. I get one every year because someone that shouldn't have three feels it's good to have a bleaker hat at theirs. But I can't get a table at the National. I know they opened up 75 new tables. I wasn't involved. They do it on a whole different floor. I'm front and center with 50, 100 other dealers that aren't at the National either at Fanatics Fest. So if they don't do that and they rely on who's been keeping me out of the hobby for the last couple of years, all the people that wouldn't give me distribution, all the people that wouldn't let me into card shows, all the people that wouldn't let me speak at their events, if they do that, who's coming into the hobby? We're in a Verizon commercial right now with Sauce Gardner launching on Amazon NFL tomorrow.
Yeah. That's cool.
we're so grateful and pumped, and we should have a whole other convo on that. But for that one thing, people now know there's cards. Right? How many people we still meet every day? Wow, cards are here, right? Yeah. We got Seinfeld in that whole campaign, shouts to, Mike Mahan's genius on that, right? Whether it's cool, not or not, people are talking about it. Is it truly about us? Maybe, but Jeremy, Joe, to your question, I think it's about that passport.
All right, good stuff. So, okay, we're going to go to some comments, guys, and let's see what everyone's saying in the chat, because there's lots of great stuff here. So I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. Carvin Chung. Actually, we'll start with his first one. He says, the goal of Fanatics Fest, grow the hobby. All card collectors are sports fans, but not all sports fans collect cards. Fanatics Fest is to attract sports fans to an experience and hope they will collect. But at the end of the day, it always comes back to profits, whether directly or indirectly. That is corporate America. I agree with that. That all makes sense to me. What Carvin says. Cage, who I've noticed Cage is jumping between YouTube and Instagram. He's first of all on Instagram. He did say that Fanatics wasn't at either Mint Collective, but But he does say they did it once. Maybe they will do better in show 2. I crap on them too, but they only did it once. My kid had a blast. He told 5 of his classmates whose dads are now going to bring them in June. And I saw Cage there. We took a picture. We had a nice little, interaction. Cage was having a blast. Like, I got it. He might not want to admit it. He would. Cage had a blast at Fanatics Fest for sure. Yelia says Fanatics Fest wants every fan who didn't attend to wish they had. I think that's an interesting perspective. Makes sense. Turp here says it's it's a sports experience, not a card show. It certainly was a card show within a sports experience. Zablo, you had a reaction to that?
I just God forbid we get included.
Yeah.
When have we ever been included?
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah.
God forbid we're included now.
Mid-Atlantic, the most revealing comment tonight, Mark's Fanatics jersey came with a gambling credit. Yeah, that is something for sure. Mid-Atlantic, my issue with Fanatics Fest is that it's easier to get a wine collector to collect sports cards than an average sports fan. Collectors are hardwired to collect. There's a ceiling. The one thing I'll say about that, and I agree, I think like the collector gene, it's you're born with it, but I think it's dormant in a lot of people. And we can 10xing includes waking up the dormant gene in people who don't even know that they have the gene yet.
But why is that 1990 Michael Jordan Fleer card one of the highest graded cards?
Because that was the busiest time in the hobby I'd ever seen.
But why is that right? That card, that 90 Fleer card popped off still is now one of the highest graded cards. My belief, Jeremy, is that father's walking by the table, sees that card on the corner and goes, holy shit, I love that card.
Yeah.
40, 50, $80, I'll buy that again. His kid's wearing a Brunson jersey already, and his friends open Prism packs. That dad gets addicted.
Yeah.
That dad becomes a gambler now. He's got money. That $5 pack for fun. Holy shit, there's a show. You know what I mean? That's where that moment is.
The dormant collector gene needs to be woken up, and then there's the gambler gene, which resides on the DNA right beside it, believe it or not. And they can stimulate each other. Mr. Manos is here. What's going on? And Vintage said, simple solution to high prices. Don't buy new wax. Let it rot on the shelves. So much easier said than done, but I've thought that way myself. Breakers HQ said, future hobbyists are at casinos, not schools. Dan here said, if Fanatics' outreach of the hobby consists of faceless MBA types who know nothing of cards, they're going to fail collectors. That's an interesting comment, because that's what I think all of us lifers are most scared of. And I've heard that they're bringing in people from different industries, not necessarily the sports card industry. Now, they did acquire Topps, which comes with a built-in staff of sports card experts, if you will. So I don't know.
And then they quote unquote rated all the Panini, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You get a couple more.
At the executive level is maybe what Dan is talking about, because, leadership starts at the top, obviously. So time will tell. I think they'll be fast failers. And I think that's really important that they will. And hopefully they're listening to advice from people in the hobby. I've heard that they are, but who knows if the people that are giving them the advice, and I'm talking about people who have been in this industry, not of the hobby, but the industry for decades. Hopefully they're giving them good advice that is collector focused versus just like LCS distributor focused. But we'll see, right? Because you need all of it, I would say. Timepiece said, we need another 90s themed episode. When am I going to have that 90s auction guy on again? Can we all agree that was the goal there? He's maybe coming on next week, Timepiece. So stay tuned for that, please. Okay, so we do have another guest coming on, but he's not here yet. He should be here any minute. That is Dan the Card Man. Dan the Card Man, who from a daily, pretty much a daily. You're nodding. You guys know.
I love watching him.
He's down under.
He's awesome.
He will be joining us from Australia. He will be on here very soon. Let's just see. Okay, not a lot. Okay, good. I can catch up on comments here. The professor said, interesting that the card father, he's talking about Rob Veris from Burbank Sports Cards, speaks against growing gambling in the hobby, but joined Fanatics in terms of moving his millions of cards off eBay to Fanatics Collect. Zablo, you shake your head. What were you thinking there?
Rob's playing chess.
Money talks, baby.
Rob's playing chess.
What do you I know what that cliche.
So let's get into that. Rob sees where this is going and knows that they're about to put a lot of money into propping something up.
Yep.
And he knows that he can go become the guy because he has that much. He's the only guy in the hobby that can give them what they need to go from here to here in 1 minute.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And he knows that this is why you held your stuff back from everybody for all these years, because this is going to pay off. Not because Fanatics is going to do this for him or do that for him, but for the next couple of years, you go buy a jersey on the NBA.com, it's going to offer you a Jason Tatum rookie from Burbank Sports Cards.
Right. Yeah.
And that's, Jeremy, that's when you say, fuck it. You know, that's when you sell, not sell out. That's when you sell out.
Yeah. No, you're right.
So-
Because you don't know
so
where this
hold
is
on.
really going.
Historically, we don't curse on the show.
I've 3 curses. I hope I'm allowed back.
I've
I'm trying not
I've
to.
moved into being. I'm okay with saying shit, but the F we're
I
gonna
apologize. Will not
no
happen
worries.
again.
It's okay.
Not
We're
happening
gonna
again.
refrain from F bombs here on Sports Cards Live, but the SH bombs are okay. Okay, Dan the Card Man is in the back room. Dan, we'll bring you on in 2 minutes. I just want to run through some final comments here, and then we'll Zablo will let you go. Ham, you stick around. We'll bring on Dan, but before you go, Zablo, I want to go to Colin Murray. Says second floor is going to be great at the National. All fresh inventory to the hobby. I'm happy with 1 8-footer compared to the Sport Card Expo where he has. Yeah, this guy's got like a 100-foot booth at the Expo in Toronto. An amazing hockey card exchange, guys. Check it out. A great dealer, and I bought cards off him. Just a great guy to deal with. Travis Huff, great show. I think the future will grow through singles as well. For the future, as most live selling apps, the biggest sellers are single card sellers when you look at the viewership. He's talking about the whatnots, the Fanatics lives, and those that make sense. Lapper, what's going on? He says, is it known what % of Fanatics revenue is sports cards? Does anyone have, just yes or no? Anyone here know that? Because I don't know. Yelia says they made Rob an offer he couldn't refuse. SCL after midnight. Yeah, we're going 3 hours tonight. Mid-Atlantic. And Terp says New York Italian drop F-bombs like love language. Very nice. Okay. All right, Zablo, before you go, any sort of final thoughts, comments on anything before? And by the way, great to have you tonight. You brought some great content, so thank you.
I appreciate you having me, Jeremy. I know I reached out. It was important. Again, I think from the Fanatics Fest standpoint, I think for everyone just to, take a listen to what we said. I think a lot of that, you bring up a lot of great points, but give them time to learn. And again, remember, it's something they're giving us. So very grateful for it.
We are a what have you done for me lately hobby, and we are also a if you don't get it perfect the first time, we are going to shit all over you type of hobby. So
you got to remember, I'm a very small shop, so allocation doesn't really mean a lot to me. Secondary market events, sponsorships, Verizon commercial launching tomorrow, those things mean a lot more to us.
That's here. Yitz, who I've also seen at Bleecker, says people love to complain. At the end of the day, collect what you like. You don't have to collect the newest thing or the hottest thing. Just collect what you like because it is your hobby. I think that's well said. Mark, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, everyone. Michael, good to speak to you.
Nice
Joe,
meeting you, Mark.
good.
Great
Jeremy,
to
thank
see
you
you
again.
Yeah, good luck with everything, Mark.
Thank y'all.
Take care, bud. All right, Ham, that was good. You stick around. We're going to bring on Dan.
Yep.
Dan, you good to come on? All right, let's bring him on. Everybody, please welcome Dan the Card Man. First time on Sports Cards Live. You are joining us live from Australia. You are muted. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm good. How's everyone going? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
you're good.
All right, perfect. I'm at my brother's house, so first time using this audio setup, so just bear with me if anything's a bit weird.
No, we got you. We can hear you just fine. You are in Australia. Where, just for the heck of it, where are you in Australia and what time is it right now?
Sydney, and it's 4:20 in the afternoon.
On Sunday. It is
Yes,
tomorrow.
Sunday. Yes, sorry. Yes, Sunday.
Yeah.
You guys should be really good. Speaking of gambling, I mean, you guys get you guys know what happens like 8 hours before we do. So you guys should be winning all these bets and just picking the winners, no?
You'd think so.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, no, it hasn't worked out that well for me.
So listen, you've been in the back listening for the past 10 or so minutes. I don't know if you were able to catch any of the other show. I know you're with family, so I'm guessing you didn't. But do you have any comments on what you heard just to sort of get your segment here rolling?
No, I unfortunately I didn't catch anything. We're doing family Christmas today, so the kids are running around like crazy, so I didn't get to hear. So apologies. If someone could fill me in.
Well, so
maybe if not.
Yeah, no, okay. First of all, we just had Mark Zablo on from Bleecker. We were talking about Fanatics Fest and a lot of Fanatics talk. Michael Ham, Michael Ham's biggest issue was I believe Ham, and correct me if I'm wrong, was you know, they did New York. It was a success. It really, like, it was a hobby success, even though they might have lost money, but they're doing it again. And then they announce Pittsburgh, they cancel. They announce Orlando, they cancel. They either, and I don't know if they used the Hurricanes as an excuse or that was legitimate. I just don't know.
That was their excuse. They could have done it. They could have done it fine. It didn't affect Orlando whatsoever. And by that time, when that event would have happened, I could have gone. It was, and I'm in an impacted area for both hurricanes, so it would have worked fine. I just think that was Mother Nature is probably in a contract, and I can get out of this because we don't have this thing together yet. Because everybody I knew that was going to set up at it, they didn't even know what was going on. There's like, I don't know a layout. I don't know I don't know nothing. And that's my biggest gripe right now with Fanatics is when they are attempting to do an event, even the people that are invited don't know what's going on yet.
So let's get that. Okay, no, and I think those are fair comments, Ham, because people are booking trips, they're canceling other things, they are making arrangements around these events, and then they get canceled, and that leaves people in a bind in many cases, maybe with non-refundable flights and this and that. So it can really stink. But Dan, any thoughts on the recent announcement? It's almost old news now. Especially when it comes to like the daily report, the daily news deliverers on YouTube, of which you are one of them. What do you think about Fanatics Fest coming back? And you know, just get your quick thoughts, and we'll move on to another topic.
No, I think it's good. I think we need obviously more competition in that space. You know, I think they bring a lot of eyes, and they're obviously spending a lot of money. But the one in Orlando, which is an interesting situation, because if I recall, there was a concert at the same event like a day or two later. Michael can probably confirm. So, like, it obviously was an excuse in that particular instance, but you know, it's hard for me to judge on this sort of stuff, given that I'm so far away. But it's just one of those ones where, like, they just need to, you know, pull their finger out and actually do what they're going to say they're going to do. Because, like, the communication piece around, you know, not giving dealers information and all that kind of thing has been around for quite some time, or rumors have been around for quite some time. So it's like, guys, you've got this money, you want to try and invest into this industry, like, let's do it the right way. And if you stuff up, right, and you make a mistake and you can't do the event, be honest. Don't blame a natural disaster.
Yeah, and I would have accepted if they said, "Hey, this just didn't work. We don't want to interfere with what's going on." No, they don't communicate with us at all, really. That's part of the problem that I have. There's, like what Mark was saying, there's all this stuff in the background. I don't get to talk to any of these people. I don't know who they are. They're not out doing videos and talking about what's going on. We're all in the dark, including the people they're involving and telling what to do. So I just don't see how that's a great business strategy, and the smart people are doing smart things when you're not involving the people that are pretty much bringing all the other people to the show as well. And I'm pretty sure this runs two different directions because, like I said, the problem that Fanatics had with the vendors, they were told that they weren't going to pretty much lose the money they lost, and they all lost a bunch of money. I'm talking, I can speak to WWE mainly because that one I just have direct information about. They were not happy about it, and they felt they were lied to. So, all right, how does that relationship get repaired?
Okay, no, I think valid concerns. Okay, but we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on from that very quickly. Hello to Mark Hoyle, Impossible Dream. Good to see you here, Ike Silverman. Welcome to the show. And who asked here? Oh, we had a question. Yeah, Breakers. I was also at Fanatics Fest in New York City. Oh, Hobby Champs confirmed that. Thank you, Hobby Champs, for that. Dan says, great to see Dan here on SCL. Dan is one of the great truth tellers in the hobby. There you go, Dan, the card man. GC wants. Do you ever run into card porn in Australia?
No, I know. So I know his alleged address. I've been very tempted to go down there and film a video, to be honest. But no, I've not seen him. But I do know people that do know him, and he's hiding away at the moment, as he should be, to be honest.
I know that he also ran the Twitter account, or runs it, Food Porn, which I think predated card porn, and he still, I'm guessing he still runs it because I still see that account. I still follow it on Twitter, and I see that account posting. So he's still out there. Professor wants to know how many different hats you wear on your YouTube channel, Dan. But your is the Raiders hat your favorite?
I don't think I have. Probably the Parramatta Eels, because they're my national team here in the rugby tournament, the rugby league. But the Raiders hat I just buy because it looks nice. I get questions about that a lot because people don't see that in the States. Apparently, it's a specific color, but what they don't understand is, sports teams here, US sports teams are, culturally relevant, so people just wear them for the fashion, not necessarily because they support the team. So that's why
Dan,
I
if
wear
you were
my
going to wear a fishing hat, what would be the brand?
Shimano for sure.
There you go, buddy. Okay, let's make
Couple
sure.
of fishermen right here. So I gotta say, it's a successful show when you got the prior guests are still in the green room watching the show right now. I can see them. No one else can, but I see them back there. I'm glad Jeff, Mark, I'm glad you guys are sticking around here and enjoying the show in the back room. Okay, let's get, we're going to change the topic. Ham, you're going to stick around because this is a topic I think you're going to want to talk about. But Dan, the one item that I wanted to talk to you about, because I haven't, just outside of watching your video on it and knowing that I had Kurt from Kurt's Card Care here on the show. I don't remember when that was. It's a while ago now. I don't know if that was that post national. It feels like it was a year ago already. I'm not even sure.
It was earlier this year.
It was early. Okay, thank you, Ham. Yeah. But Dan, you did a video, Kurt's Card Care juice recipe exposed. Can you give me and this audience a bit of a briefing on what happened, why it was exposed, what your thoughts are on all that? Catch me up and everybody else, please.
Yeah, so essentially, I think it came out 4 or 5 months ago. People got a bit late to the news to report it, but my understanding is that in order for him to sell his product, his cleaning spray, and ship it between states, he was required to disclose what was within them. And I believe that requirement was there previously, but it wasn't being done. So a few people complained to somebody, and that's how he put that out there. And essentially what it disclosed was that his cleaning spray, which I believe, now this is just my opinion, I need to double check things, but I believe it was mentioned as being 100% natural. But it turns out it has chemicals, specifically types of alcohol and some other things in there. And that's why I put out the video, because I had a lot of pushback when I've talked about his cleaning products in the past, specifically around the ethics of it and, my concern about what it does to a card long term. But people pushed back and sort of said it's natural. Get over it. It's natural. It's not going to do anything. Obviously, with this information showing that it's got different types of alcohol in it, some other things that are not, disclosed to certain levels of detail. Just thought that needed to be said, and people to sort of be a bit more aware to say, okay, maybe it's not as safe as what I thought.
Mm-hmm. And
maybe it still is.
Well, that's a key question that I would have. Listen, I've never used any. I don't alter cards. I don't even clean cards. Like the most I'll do is like if I happen to spit like a piece of like a little bit of saliva, I'll take a Kleenex and rub it off. But I don't mess with the cards. Maybe a fingerprint. I'll take a piece of Kleenex, but I don't even send cards in for grading. Really, I've done it in the past. So I don't deal with those products. I never would. It's not something I would. It's just not something I would do. All that said, now that we know that there are some chemicals in this product, do we also know that these are chemicals that could, in the long term, impact the card's condition once it's in a slab?
No.
Well, yeah, well, that's where we don't know. I don't know. Some people have responded saying they have expertise in that area and said it does, but that's just a person commenting on the internet.
So I don't know if you've ever looked at or paid attention to Kirk's background or remember it and how he learned to even do this. It was in paper restoration. So, and
where do you stand on it, Ham? Where do you stand on that product and using it on cards and not disclosing it to the buyers of the cards?
Well, first of all, everybody's doing it for the most part. And we still have people that set up at shows that clean cards straight in front of everybody's face with PSA there, within it, all the other graders. And they don't go, you can't be here, because it's part of the ecosystem and they know they can't do anything about it. All they can state is they can't detect it. Well, if you can do something you can't detect and it fixes a problem, then why wouldn't you do it? Especially since everything's monetary driven based off of a grade. If you eliminate those things, then you don't have that problem. But we're not in that environment anymore. So new things appear. It's already now accepted. It's accepted, even if PSA has to state that it's not, because they can't go against their original word anyway. That's bad luck for the company. It's like when you say, oh, no speeding, but you speed every day and you're a cop. So it's just how it has to be. I get it. It's a business thing. But it's also not shunned the way we think it is, because it's being done all the time.
Well, there's so many people. There's a guy at my local card show who proudly talks about doing it. He loves it. He buys Kurt's Card Care and he loves using it because he finds it fun. And I'm kind of cringing as I'm hearing it, but I'm not going to sit there and lecture the guy. Maybe I should. Dan, and then I want to hear from Joe too. But Dan, what about you? What are you? I feel like I know it, but where do you stand ethically on it?
Well, I think it's like beyond inappropriate, if I'm being perfectly honest, because the concern is we don't know what it does long term, and I think the buyer of the card has the right to know what was done to it before they can make that informed decision, right? And as I've said before, the reason why it's not disclosed is because they know they're no longer going to get a premium for it. Nobody's going to want to pay top dollar for something that was, done to a car. They don't want to touch a car that's been molested, right? We've also seen examples, like I think Collector's Dream, who sometimes in your comment section purchased a vintage card that had some, spots show up again years later, and it gets worse progressively, right? He's done a few videos on it. That card was allegedly soaked, and that's come back. We've seen stories in the past about cards that get soaked, that crack over time. Mm-hmm. And obviously soaking is very different to spraying a card with some cleaning material than wiping it down. But the onus shouldn't be on us either to try and say that it's going to damage it. Like I would like to think that people that are selling a product can prove it before they go ahead and start selling it to people.
I do still find it very odd that it's okay to do what you can in a comic book and you can't do it on a card. I just have a hard problem with that. That just doesn't cross streams for me.
It's interesting though, Ham. It's interesting that the comic community is okay with it. The card isn't. This is all paper.
And what's funny is, I collect cards, obviously, more than comics, but I would rather you not touch my comic book more than my card.
Right.
Especially with what they do to it. I mean, they darn well take the whole thing apart, put new staples back in, steam it, press it, clean it, take it out to eat. They talk nice to it. I mean, it's crazy what you do to a comic book, but you can't even barely wipe off of a card, and then you're like a criminal. I just don't get it. It just doesn't cross streams with me. I get it and I don't get it. That's all.
How about let me ask Joe. Joe hasn't. Joe is my he's my moral support. He's here, and sometimes he goes for a long time without saying something. It's time, Joe. I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts? Because Joe's a very logical thinker, and where do you stand ethically, Joe? And I'm putting you on the spot here on using Kurt's Card Care, similar products like that on cards. Now that we know, at least with Kurt's Card Care, that apparently there are chemicals in them.
Yeah, I don't like it. And at the same time, I know it happens. I mean, it kind of brings up to me the conversation we were having a little bit around the Shohei autograph that got wiped so they could get the kanji on it. And it's just, it's not a question of, are you allowed to do something with your own property? Of course you are, and nobody can stop you. Nobody's got a surveillance camera around you 24/7. But what we've seen in the hobby is that usually these things don't happen without some ulterior motive. And even if you don't have an ulterior motive, someone down the way might, and or somebody might actually be, bear the brunt of your actions. So to me, it brings in kind of the concept of best practices, and my best practices is I don't alter my cards. And I hope not to purchase any that have been altered, because I don't want to be kind of left holding the bag of a card that starts to wrinkle or starts to discolor or starts to have something happen to it. And so I wouldn't advocate for anybody to do that. I wouldn't be rooting for somebody to try and get over and get a higher grade. But, I understand it's still going to happen, and it's the reality of the hobby that unfortunately, I think we've got to sort of make our peace with the fact that it's happening, even though we don't all agree with it.
So yeah, great words. As Dan says, Joe is wise and nails it. I agree. So here's a dilemma. Here's an ethical dilemma. I'll start with you on this one, Dan. And this happened to me. I'm going to tell you what happened. I bought a PSA 7 Jean Beliveau 53 Parkhurst rookie card because it was very nice. But I already had a PSA 5. And the 7, I don't know. It was those borders were pretty darn white. And I thought, you know what? This might have been worked on. I don't know for sure. Like, I bought it wherever. I don't remember. It might have been worked on. The fact that it might have been worked on and that it looked too good for its age made me like, I like my 5-way better. It's all natural. I like my cards like I like my women, all natural. I don't want them worked on. None of that, right? Like that's a kind of a nice. I want my cards natural. So, but did I do anything wrong by putting a PSA slabbed 1953 Parker Jean Beliveau back onto the market because I didn't want it anymore. And I thought to myself, not definitively, I have no way to know, but I was concerned that this might have been worked on by somebody along the way before it got in my hands. Dan, what do you think? Should people make the potential audience or buyers aware that they have potential concerns because I have no way to know, or it's in the PSA slab, I'm okay to just sell it?
It's a tricky one, to be honest. Like I've disclosed things like that in the past when I've had issues with a card, or a card that I think has had stuff done to it. I've also done it in the past too when I've cracked the card out and been in a BGS slab and gone to PSA and then come out at a higher grade. I've told people what the original BGS grade was. I think it just comes down to the situation. Like if I was at a card show, for sure, I'd probably be disclosing that. I'd be explaining, okay, this is what I think is wrong with it. I've got no proof, but this is just my gut feeling. But that's typically how I, approach things at a show. It's more like community based, right?
And you know what? I think I sold it on, at the time, PWCC. I think I submitted it to them to sell and just like let it go, But at if I was selling it in person at a card show, pretty sure I would be like, yeah, this looks too good to be true. Take that with what you will, for the condition. Read between the lines, and that's probably all I would do at that point. I don't think that I think I'm ethically okay there. I think I can sleep at night with that. I don't think I need to start to down talk my cards when I have no evidence anything really happened with them. And I know that there's got to be everybody out there who's been collecting cards for, 10 years plus, or not even, whatever. You've been collecting, you have enough cards in your collection. You likely have cards in that like that one that I had that you're a little suspicious about. And now we have to ask ourselves, what's the right way to dispose of those cards? If we want to, you may, be like, oh, I'm 60% sure, or even 25% suspicious. Like, I don't know, maybe that Beliveau I had was just pack pulled and no one touched it for 50 years. And then it, made its way to PSA. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
the other thing to add on that, right? It's in a PSA slab and they have a guarantee. So if a buyer goes ahead and grabs it and they want to send it back in and they have a concern and PSA says, yeah, it was altered, they're going to be protected by that guarantee. They're going to get paid out. So you can have some reassurance with that as well. They don't always pay out, but at least it's there.
Well, okay. And you know what do you, Ham, any comments on that sort of dilemma? Because we're getting some good comments in the chat. And this is something that, I want to, for myself, Ham, and guys, I just want to, as I move forward, I want to make sure that I'm doing right by my fellow hobbyists. If I didn't that time.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to sell something to anybody that's broken either. So, I mean, it's the same thing in the mindset. But if you're being upfront, which let's face it, most people in the hobby are not, because they don't want to lose money. Most of these people are already stringing themselves out by just constantly hoping to make a buck on something to just spin. I watch it at shows all the time. Yeah, as long as you disclose things, I don't really care. I mean, and to some of the points where we're saying, oh, I'd never want a card doctored or graded or whatever, it matters the card. Because if I can get myself on a Babe Ruth that I'll never be able to attain any other way, and it's a nice copy and it's still real, I don't care, because it's in my price point. Now, to higher level collectors, there's a different care involved. Just like people that have a 2 and they just need an 8 for something. You don't, but you want. Yeah. It's the same thing. It's a dilemma that each collector faces differently. It's just, if we're honest with each other and we're good to each other, everything will work out. But there's always going to be bad seeds when big money gets involved. And we now got big money involved in all these cards. So It's changed the game. The thieves come out.
Well, Joe, do you have any thoughts on that dilemma situation?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really. It's a conundrum, and I think it's something we're all probably facing. I kind of agree with Dan. It's probably a lot to do with context and the circumstance. Not everybody's able to attend shows, and again, you're in that same dilemma. I mean, it's almost the mirror of who a PSA has to acknowledge, which is we don't allow it, but we can't detect it. As the consumer, you're not sure, you suspect it, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, fair. Okay, comments. Colin says PSA couldn't detect bleaching back in the day. They still may not be able to. Dan says a friend of mine in the hobby sold a PSA graded 52 Campanella that he suspected was cleaned. He told potential buyers of his concern. It's good to hear. Hobby Champs, absolutely no obligation whatsoever to get into details like that when a card is graded in a third-party grader graded slab. Yeah, I mean, I agree. The the legal obligation is not there. We've had the experts opine on it already, but I don't know. At the same time, I think that personally and morally, I feel like I'm probably, in person, I probably would steer people away. Like, listen, it's a 7, but I don't know how much I'd be comfortable selling this to you. For myself, I probably felt better because I didn't know I wasn't the seller. The intermediate consignment company was the seller. So there was that one layer in between that made it easier for me. But, so next time, what do you do if you only sell through consigners? Do you let them know what you're suspicious of? Because they're not going to care. They're just going to want to sell the card. So,
turn and burn.
It's an interesting Lantern says in PSA, slab sells as is unless you have 100% knowledge of alteration. Anything else is speculation. That's correct. Like I could have been completely wrong. Anyway, maybe there are some cases where you are a little bit more sure if you're really an expert, but I definitely hear that. Professor says, is there any documented use case that a card treated by Kurt's Card Care had a stain or wrinkle return? Well, as I think Dan mentioned, Orlando from A Collector's Dream has talked about that happening. Dan, right?
Yeah, we don't know if that was Kurt's. It wasn't Kurt.
Yeah.
That we don't know. Now, here's the thing with Kurt's Card Care and stuff we know he's worked on. He's made videos on those. There's some that have been decertified, and there's stuff that we still know that's out there. Over time, if something happens, we would actually be able to pinpoint that card. So technically, he has a working copy of work out there that at some point, and maybe 40 years, and maybe next week, that we can at least go, aha, this is what happened. But until it happens, and I know there's people watching, so they're going to find it if it does. So we just have to wait now.
What were you going to say? He should be doing that, to be honest. I was going to say, we don't know if Orlando's one was caused by Kurt's Card Care. I think it was some other cleaning product or whatever that was. But Kurt should be actively working on what Michael just said. Start building, have some cards, do some work on them, and then revisit them in 1, 2, 3, 4 years time and say, hey guys, look, I use this exact process. Here's the video. You can see what I did. This card has had no damage to it, or this stain has not returned. Right? That's what I'd be doing if I was him.
With paper restoration, think about big old paintings, old documents that are government, stuff like that. Those have to be taken care of every year. So you can't just do it once on something old or vintage and just assume that it's going to stay forever that way. That's why that stain came back. Those documents are, taken care of all the time. So it's not going to be any different. Paper restoration is not a one-time deal and you go away. Throw some hairspray on it, it stays stiff forever. That doesn't work that way.
Hairspray for anybody who's looking for a new business. Okay.
Stop using paint pens on cards. That paint's going to fall right off in 5 years.
Timepiece here says there was an episode of MC Mondays where I said a card that was in a BGS case should remain in holder because there were more one-of-ones that surfaced recently, which is great. The greatest use of grading. I don't remember what that was about exactly, Timepiece, but sounds sort of, it's a little vague, but I think there is, there are good reasons to keep cards in their original old slabs because some, especially Beckett, they are timestamped. PSA is not. Clemente asks, Jeremy, do you regret having Kurt on because it gave him more publicity? Absolutely not. I have zero regret about having Kurt on if I would have had regret, I wouldn't have had him on in the first place. I think it's important for people to understand what's going on out there, to understand what might I think if anything, I'm proud of it because people now know, more people now know that that's happening out there. So my job and what I do here isn't about, and listen, it really comes down to, better the devil you know than the devil you don't. And now it's out there. And listen, Kurt's a nice guy. I had a good time talking to Kurt. Am I a supporter of what he does? No. Would I buy his products? Absolutely not. But having him on this show and, you know, giving it more publicity, yeah, some people might start doing more of that, and that's a you know, a byproduct of it. But I think the benefits outweigh the negatives of having him on. So no, I absolutely do not regret having him on. Clement Breaker says, I think Jeremy's show also helped shine the light for PSA to take action. Yeah, I mean, if you know, listen, I do know that there are pretty high up people in the hobby that do watch this channel and certain shows that I do. So who knows if that had anything to do with PSA learning more and doing anything, I'll take that as a feather in my cap versus anything else. And I know a lot of people had an issue with me having him on. And listen, that's fine. You don't have to watch or agree with everything I do. That's been my stance forever. And I'm going to continue to have on and do what I want to do here and what I think that my audience and you guys, our chat will enjoy. And but educating the hobby is, and listen, I mean, hey, Dan, everybody talks about the naysayers, the no-gooders, let's say. And I'm not saying Kurt's a no-gooder or a do-gooder. Yeah. I'm just saying that, like, I mean, I hear all my fellow content creators talking about everybody. So I don't know.
Jeremy, I would be curious to see, because that was earlier this year. I would like to see how that compares as possibly your most watched video of the year.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it was
that would
well
tell you
watched.
The interest around the guest you had, whether it's good or bad. That still shows you how much people are paying attention and what they want to see, good or bad.
Yeah, his episode was well watched, and I mean, I've got so many videos in my studio that. But I mean, if I just scroll through here to see,
you just do like top viewed or whatever.
Yeah, I'm going to my So there he is. He's on the first page of 30 pages of live streams for watch. I mean, people with more views than him are Brian Gray, Rick Probstein, Brian Gray again, Adam from Dave and Adams. There's a few others that Tim Getch, Jason Kuntz. You know, some of the controversial. Brian Gray's always up there. Yep. Patrick Bet David.
We're all waiting for Brian to tell us what he's doing, so we all can tune in.
I know. We'll find it.
He's catfishing all of us right now.
Nat Turner's up there. Chris Sewell is up there. Jeff Wilson's up there. So, yeah, I mean, Kurt's on the first page of my most viewed videos, and that's a good thing. I think now people know what to look for. If that helped him sell some product, I'm willing for that to happen in order for the thousands of people to watched or listened to that episode know what they need to know in a buyer beware situation. Because that's what this is, right?
Yep.
Dan, what are your thoughts on all that?
Well, I think that's fair. And PSA, like someone mentioned earlier, they changed their policy off the back of this, right? So it's explicitly called out now in their T's and C's that you cannot do it. It's basically fraud. So, that's a win in my opinion. There's another comment there from Dan's Vintage Baseball at 4:43 my time, and he talks about my comment that I made earlier about Kurt maybe, starting to keep like a catalog of the effects that this has on his cards, and he says that someone who cleans cards for profit is not going to go ahead and do that. I think the opposite, right? I think his business could increase if he went ahead and done that, because if he proves that it doesn't do any damage, then maybe he has a PSA come knocking on his door and saying, "Hey, do you want to do a partnership? Let's start offering cleaning service." Right.
And you know what, Dan? Both Dans. One thing that I remember from Kurt is that he really considers himself to be like an artist, like a craftsman. This is not. While it is a money-making venture for him, it's a business for him. It's also like he really enjoys the puzzle, like figuring out how to clean, alter, whatever you want, right? So I think he would want to know, and then I think he's the kind of guy that would want to know, okay, I got to alter my recipe so that I can improve it. I think that's the kind of person, like, love him or hate him. I think that's what I picked up from him. And again, I don't support his products. I would never buy them. I would never use them. If I had a LCS, I wouldn't sell them in my store. And I think others do, you know? So
They do. Yeah.
yeah. So I wouldn't. But that said, he's a human being who I had a 2-hour-long conversation with. And that's one of the things I gleaned from that discussion was that he considers himself to be a real, I think the word I'm looking for. Joe, what word am I looking for? Is it artist? Is it
craftsperson? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, he's got a couple different, you know, I mean, the restoration of guitars, if I'm recalling correctly. I mean, there's that
guitars.
And I, you know, I mean, I think there's a sincerity to that, but I think there's also some naivete in not understanding that, of course, there's profit motivations underlying it, whether he has that understanding or that goal in mind. You know, my sense is he legitimately just likes making the cards look better. And so it's a passion project for him. But for others, the passion is the, you know, the ROI, the, you know, arbitrage that's possible there.
And then for the buyers, it taints these cards. I do not want cards that have been through the Kurt's Card Care process or any of that. I don't mind if someone, you know, is going to clean the surface like with a microfiber. To me, that's okay, right? That's probably the extent for me. But as soon as you're doing anything else, like I don't want wrinkles rubbed out. I don't mind wrinkles. I don't really mind a wrinkle in my card, especially
I like wrinkles in vintage cards. That lets me know it's old.
Right. I like my cards. I have to do a couple of funny comments that have come in. First of all, Breakers HQ said, would you ethically call out a virgin bride on her wedding if you knew otherwise? What we don't know won't hurt, right? Well, yeah, that's tongue in cheek, of course.
Yeah, and that's probably the wrong situation.
And then I have to go into mourning. I have lost a subscriber tonight, guys. The Mad Greek says, I used to watch this show, but tonight I'm removing my subscription. Jeremy can't speak. I do sometimes trip over my words. I'll admit that. He sounds special needs, and which isn't nice. It's not nice to make that comment, Mad Greek. And Dan the Card Man sounds like he has a speech impediment. I can't even listen. If you can't listen, turn it off. That's okay. That's okay. Anyway, that was pretty funny. Yeah, Hobby Champs. What? Dan says this is the first time anyone ever called an Australian accent a speech impediment. Dan, I know you're on a time crunch, and I've already held you here longer than you were intending to, so I thank you for being here. We're going to wrap up the show in about 8 minutes, guys. But Dan, I want to just ask you now, we've talked enough about Kurt and that. Anything else on your in your view that you are seeing hobby-wise that you think that maybe we should know about? Any recent videos you've done that are really hitting home with your audience that maybe we should share here with this one?
The only other thing I've talked about in recent weeks is probably relevant is the whole Beckett situation. Now, I think you probably covered that a couple of times over the last few weeks, but what I spoke about this week was an interaction I had with them that I think highlighted where they are right now. So over the last 18 months, I've done a video series on some cards that look like they were patch swapped. So these were some cards out of 2017 NT. NFL, there was some Saquon Barkley and some Lamar Jacksons that showed up, duplicate 1-of-1 shields. And through some, investigation, I confirmed that they were in fact patch swapped because of Patrick Mahomes' RPA was also patch swapped out of Panini Phoenix, if I remember correctly. So the interesting part here is that they all ended up in Beckett slabs, all the dodgy ones, the duplicate ones. And eventually after, 12 months, I got in touch with Beckett, and I think my interaction with them was, highlighting why maybe they're struggling a little bit now, because their response to me was, what do you expect us to do as a company? Like, Panini have, maybe made duplicates. What do you want us to do? And I just thought that was pretty interesting. So that's what I talked about, this week as well, because, if a third-party grader grades the same 1-of-1 and they look different, like I would have expected them to maybe pick that up or dig a bit deeper when that information came to light. And when I also confirmed that the patch swaps did occur and they were all part of the same submission, I would have thought they would have maybe tried to get in touch with that submitter as well, but that didn't really happen. So obviously Becca's got a lot of issues. It's disappointing because they're such a big name brand and some kind of or a company you'd expect to be around long term, and they have a lot of upside, but to sort of get that response from them was pretty disappointing, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. It's not. That's not good corporate communication to a customer. Never mind a content creator who's going to take that public. Right. That was just a stupid decision to communicate with you that way. And I have to wonder what level that person was.
They were pretty senior, unfortunately. So
what's that?
They were fairly senior, so they weren't just general customer service staff. It was someone high up. So really annoying.
For them to say, "What do you expect us to do?" is Joe. Joe's like a thesaurus, you guys. But like, how would you describe that response? What do you expect us to do? Is it trying to shift the blame? Is it trying to say we don't know what? Are you saying we don't know what to do? Are you saying we are inept in our role? Who was it, Dan? Can you tell us who that was that communicated with you? I want to know.
No, I can't. I can tell you off camera, but I can't disclose it here.
Understood. Thank you. And I'm curious. What do you think of that comment, Joe? What do you expect us to do? I mean, shouldn't you be making your own policies and good policies?
The phrase that comes to mind is mealy mouthed. I mean, it's offering nothing. And in most lines of business or customer service, you want to try and offer something. If not, a direct solution, some perspective, and that's not much of a perspective, is it?
No, that's Ham. What do you think? I mean, that's disappointing.
It's disappointing, but I'm going to tell you this: I get where they're coming from, because we've already seen Panini put completely different player patches in cards, and they say it's an accident when you can do it over and over again, pull it apart, and it's not the same player. Because Panini was dumb enough to put a double-sided sticker on the back of it that says the player's name, assuming nobody's ever going to peel the card apart. And I question patches, especially early 2000s stuff right now that came out of Leaf and Donruss, only because if you look on eBay and you see like one seller list like 12 bangers in a row, and you're just like, I've been around the hobby for a minute and I was collecting during that time, and I ain't never seen one of these ever. And now this person just has a whole bunch. And if you go back and look at that person's seller account, like 3 weeks later, it's gone. And then they pop up and do it again. So the patch thing, I don't even know if I trust patches anymore. Half of them anymore, not even half, more than half are not even game used. They're player worn, or we don't even know what all these terms mean that they've used over the last 20 years. I've literally written them down and tried to figure out, when can I say that this decade is this decade is this, and then once you hit here, goodbye. It's just all made up stuff.
Yeah, Dan. What are your thoughts? Because Ham, I mean, what Ham just brought up is we could do a 3-hour discussion on this, and I'm very, very passionate about it. Is the language on the back of a memorabilia card? You often see the certification on the back of the card that says, and I'm going to try to get this right and not. I don't have a mem card on my desk right now, I don't think. But where it says the front of this card contains a piece of game-worn memorabilia and an autograph of Wayne Gretzky. So a piece of game-worn memorabilia and an autograph of Wayne Gretzky, with no commas. Commas can be very important in the message you're sending. So the way I read that is a piece of game worn memorabilia. Great, that could be worn by anybody in any game, anywhere, and an autograph of somebody and somebody else's autograph. That's what that tells me, and I wonder why they would even do that. Why they would even put that on the card if they are why they would even do that if they're not trying to protect themselves from something. Dan, any thoughts on that?
Well, it scares me, right? Because you just mentioned Gretzky specifically, but I'm fairly certain on the back of Panini cards, as an example, sometimes it doesn't even mention the player. It just says this autograph and this piece of memorabilia is certified by Panini, something along those lines, right? So but it's like, well, what does that even mean? Now, obviously, for the autographs, it's a bit easier to get comfort, right? Because you can see autographs they've signed in person, but the whole relic thing scares me. I've got a bunch of Flawless Soccer that I was thinking about the other day, actually. Like, I've got these game used relics from the boot and jerseys, and I'm thinking to myself, it's awesome to own these. I'm a huge fan of these teams. It makes collecting that card that much more exciting. But what if It's just a random person or a random player. That just ruins the whole card for me, right? So I try not to think about it, to be perfectly honest with you.
And that's my concern, because they're not telling you otherwise.
Yeah, for a reason.
Well, maybe there was a Volpe that was pulled at the Topps RIP thing that I went to like 2 weeks ago. And the front of the card says game used memorabilia. The back of the card says not from any specific game or event or player. What does that mean? They drug it out on this field and Volpe was on the other side. Did he looked at it? I don't know. that you're just telling me that this isn't real. That's all you just did to me.
I think. Sorry.
Are you good? You got that thought? Did you get that thought out?
No, I was just going to say, like, the other, maybe we can take some comfort that maybe they don't mention the player to save on printing costs, because they only have to build one template for the back of the card. So maybe that's what it is.
That's actually not a bad reason why. I mean, I don't like it, and then spend the money and do it would be my response. Like, that's ridiculous. But if it's just for it to have a one size fits all template on the back of their cards, then you know, I want to flip you the bird, really. Hobby Champ says this is about the Beckett discussion. It's not really about the context of their response. It's the unprofessional way that it was handled. Yes, like maybe that's what I was getting at there, and I just couldn't articulate it that way. Yeah, Hobby Champs, I do agree. And then he goes, "This is the best." This, you know, if this show was the crossover that the Card Ladder guys do on Instagram, where they name their show at the end of the episode. This would be the name of tonight's show, because this comment by Hobby Champ says, "What's next on the back of the card? Whatever, bro."
That's basically the response I got, which was incredible. Like, my expectation, the way I shared all the information with them was very black and white. I identified that they were all part of the same submission, all these issues, right? I would have expected a phone call, like, immediately, kind of thing. Because some of these cards sold for well over 5 figures. They're not cheap, and I think it was pretty crystal clear.
Yeah.
And it's such a simple thing for them to fix. Like, I can go on a rant right now if you have time, but it's just a very frustrating.
If you want to rant, I'm willing to let you rant. I do. Before you do that, I want to just say to Joe, if you need to bolt, go ahead. Always good to have you up here with me, or stick around and listen. What do you want? You're gonna?
Yeah, I might dip out, but I really appreciate both of these guests tonight, and how you articulate yourselves and what you represent in the hobby. So thank you for your presence, and carry on.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
We'll talk to you later. Ham, you're good to stick around. So we'll let. Okay, so Dan, let's hear the rant.
So I look at these through an auditor's lens, right? Like, my expectation for a grader would be that they can track these things already. Like, how can you go ahead and grade one of ones and not know that you've graded that same card twice until somebody in the community tells you? Like, how do they not have a database that they can reference, that once the grade has happened, that they can say, hang on a minute, we've already graded one of these one of one shields. There's only meant to be one. And then they look at it in their system and they say, well, they're different. They look different. Maybe we shouldn't grade this. Or maybe we should still grade this, but let's call Panini to understand further. Like, the fact that that's not happening across any of these graders, per my understanding, is just really concerning. And, you know, I've talked about this a lot, Jeremy, that I just feel like the risk appetite in this industry is not as good as what it should be, especially with the amount of money being spent these days. And obviously that's a very, you know, widespread statement for me to make, but just looking at the mistakes that sort of happen and sort of those kinds of responses that we get from some of these companies, it's just beyond disappointing. Like, there's no reason why it should be like that.
Yeah, I mean, well said. I honestly thought the rant was going to go a bit longer, so I was
no, I can't. I'll just be. I don't want to eat up too much of your time.
I was just settling in for it. So okay, all right. Let's. I want to do a couple comments here. Yankees fan, a nice comment, says, "I've been collecting for decades, and I still learn something every week. I love the fact you bring all the different people on, like Kurt. Everyone has an opinion. Keep up the great shows. Thank you, Yankees fan. I do really appreciate that." Dog Food says, if only grading companies had some sort of population-like report with card titles and player names to reference to see if they had already graded one of ones. Yeah, fair enough right there for sure. Terp says, yeah, what does player worn used even mean?
And we know players would just throw on the famous video where he throws on like 50 jerseys, all sizes too big, to say he player worn. You know, I when I see player worn and not game used, 100% turn off for me.
Same.
I shut off. That card's no longer. I don't care what it looks like unless it's cheap. You just burn me straight out. And the worst is when I see a vintage player with a patch of something that they could never ever have played in because it didn't exist. That pisses me off. I'm like,
yeah, those are.
What are you doing?
It's one of two things. It's either the card company is cheating or they made an honest mistake. And I have been into the memorabilia room at Upper Deck. Now, this was in 2009, so it's 15 years ago. But I was in their memorabilia room, and it's literally like it was a wall with a bunch of bins, and like you could pull out the bins, and each bin had a label on it. And from what I seem to remember, it's a long time ago, was that there weren't several bins per player. So there wasn't like, here's a bin with one jersey, here's a bin with another, here's a bin with their pants, their glove, their bat, their stick, whatever. It was like one bin per player. And so I could also see them just making a mistake, putting the wrong pieces in the wrong bin when they're done, when there's excess from a product. Okay, we still have 5 pieces left. Let's go put it in the bin. Maybe instead of putting it in the Mario Lemieux bin, they put it in the Sidney Crosby bin, or pick 2 players from any sport and on any team. So it's one of those two things. But what does player worn used even mean? Used for what? Like you may as well put the sole of your shoe from when you were in high school in there. Like, you used it, you wore it. It's kind of ridiculous. Lapper says Upper Deck SP game used product is not all game used. Pretty telling of where these companies are at. Yeah, I mean, if the brand itself,
it's so funny we were talking about this because I had this on my tablet that I started to write down at one point. There's player worn, player used, game worn, game used, not from any specific event or player, manufactured patch, event worn, event used. I don't know what all that means. I mean, other than player worn, game used, those are pretty easy. But what's worse is every year the same company will change the verbiage on the back of the card. And I'm like, I don't even know if they know what they're doing. It's like, roll the dice. We're going to put this on this year, and we're going to run with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
harder to get game used for these companies, too. These players swap jerseys, keep their own jerseys. Like, if I want a Bucks jersey after games, there's their own website that the player gets the money for putting their jersey up for the game, for that game used jersey. And it's authenticated by the team. You go through an agent. Like, for these companies and places to do it, I'm surprised that Fanatics, maybe they'll do it when they do football, because I'm assuming the debut patch is going to go into all sports moving forward. We've already seen soccer now with what their version of it. I think that's going to be moving forward. They're going to be doing that in every sport that they can touch. But they also may say, hey, we want you to wear 2 jerseys this game. Halftime, come in, take that off, throw another one on. We're going to keep this one.
That's kind of power that Ruben has when it comes to, baseball, basketball, and event and baseball.
Well, that agreement they signed where they get the 10% back, that's, the one thing card companies never did is involve the leagues in getting money back or players. Once you do that, opens up a whole new door. They're willing to play ball because it's money.
I'm not sure if you guys do this, but for my match worn stuff, I actually track it back to the auction that piece of memorabilia was sold in, so I know which games they're from. So I know Wax Museum Podcast does that a lot for all these basketball stuff. It's a lot easier for product older than like 2019, but I do that for my own peace of mind, so I know, number one, which game it's from, so I can go ahead and watch it to see if the player did anything good, and then more importantly, know that it's not fake, right?
Yeah.
Well, all right, guys.
Jersey Fusion, real quick. Jersey Fusion, some of the stuff that they have in there are very specific of where it came from. So if you're really looking for a cheaper version of a really nice game used patch or something, it literally tells you what auction they got it at, if it was in an actual game, what's the event. Sometimes it's player signed from the actual game. So it's like, okay, I don't really have many questions on this. I can get it at a discount. And I just find that as a value, realistically.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for that. I'm going to read one, probably a few more, but I want to read this comment from Hobby Champs because I feel I agree. He says, one of my biggest pet peeves about third-party grading companies is that they don't put the serial number of the card that they graded on the flip. I do think SGC does that. He says they should have been doing it. They should have been doing that right from the start, all of them. Could not agree more. I think that is, and we all want to know it, especially if the serial number is on the back of the card. You're browsing a card show and the vendor's busy. You don't know what the card is numbered to. You want to know what's on the right of the slash. We also want to know what's on the left of the slash, just for integrity purposes, right? When I first started meeting the tag grading, and I saw what they were doing. I said, you got to put the serial number. I said, I'd love for you to put the serial number on the slabs. And they didn't do it. They did not take my advice on that. And that was one thing I was like, that would be so good, so cool. Yeah. And I've been thinking the way Hobby Champs is thinking, I've been thinking this way for, a few years now. I wish they would have done that. And the reason that I can't speak to why PSA doesn't do it or Beckett grading, but the reason Tag did was just because they don't have a paper flip, everything, they don't have as much room to work with. It was literally a real estate issue. They didn't have the room to put it on there and keep it looking nice. And I thought to myself, not a good enough reason, but okay, I'm not going to die on this hill, So I wish they would have done it. And I think
that they put that data in the QR code.
Oh, that
I'll take 10% of all sales.
No, you're right. That's a good call, Ham, because that isn't the QR, because the QR code takes you to images of front and back of the
so
card.
Then so at least there's an identification process on it. That's
good
not
point.
effective.
I'd still like it on the flip itself.
They could laser etch it after. Come on, it's technology. We got it. Tags leading in technology. Remember?
I think they thought about it, but yeah, it just wasn't going to work for them. So and anyway, I just wanted to mention that because I agree with Hobby Champs on that for sure. Okay. Simon in the chat says, Dan saying risk appetite is the first time I've ever heard that phrase used in the hobby. I'm getting flashbacks to my work meeting on Friday. Dog Food here says that was one of the nice things about my grade tags when they came to buying game used jerseys. You could look at their site, get the info, and in a lot of cases, photo match a puck, mark, repair, etc. Hobby Champs at Jersey Fusion turning $2 cards into $5 cards, $30 at a time.
That's right.
Breakers HQ says, we the collectors created this monster years ago. Players didn't care about the jerseys and autos. Now they know the values, and it isn't easy to get game worn. That is fact. Dan Vintage, great show, Jeremy. Terrific guest. Your honesty and perspective in the Kurtz discussion is appreciated. Thank you, Dan. Rock Latex says, I want the labels to all be uniform if they're from the same set, so I vote no on serial numbers. That's fair. That's fair.
That's a different idea.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. I want to thank all the guests that we had. We had Leighton Sheldon, we had Johnny Amendola, we had Jeff Hart, we had Mark Zablo, and we still have Michael Ham and Dan the Cardman, guys. Fun show. Want to thank you both. You're both invited back again in the future. So thank you for coming on, bringing the content, bringing your thoughts and perspectives. Dan, I know you're taking time away from family time, so I'm going to let you get out of here pretty much right away. Breakers HQ, thank you so much. That's how we do things here. That's how we've been doing things here, coming up on 5 years. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate that very much. Aaron, guys, check out Lappers Hockey Card Flips YouTube channel. Check out Dan the Cardman. Check out Baseball Card Curmudgeon. Check out all these guys. Thank you, Baz. Thank you, Mark Santucci. Thank you, Breakers. Thank you, Hobby Champs. Good night. Thank you, Dan. Say goodbye, guys, and then we're going to just wrap this up.
Goodbye, and thank you for having me, Jeremy.
Thank you.
All right, guys, thanks again. Hope you're enjoying this new format of Sports Cards Live here on Saturday nights. And now, this is episode number 250 of Sports Cards Live here on December the 7th, 2024. But episode 250 of Sports Cards Live here on December the 7th, 2024 is now over.